Do I need to call you?
All right,
Yes.
ladies and gentlemen, we are calling to order the Massachusetts Gaming Commission Public Meeting number 249 on August 2nd, 2018. We are at the Mass Mutual Center in Springfield, Massachusetts, and we are 22 days away from the opening of the MGM Springfield Casino. First up today, Mayor Sarno, I know, is not available. But I know that his Chief of Staff, Denise Jordan, is here, and we are pleased to welcome her to our meeting and have her welcome us to her city.
Thank you, Chairman. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
On behalf of the mayor of our great city, Mayor Dominic Sarno, I would like to welcome you all back to Springfield. Mayor Sarno is taking some much-needed time away with his family, so I am here to stand in for him. As you can imagine, these are exciting times in the city of Springfield. We are all anxious for the grand opening of the MGM Entertainment Resort. For the past few months, representatives from the city, along with representatives from MGM, have been meeting diligently for the past several months, and now we're meeting weekly to discuss all the plans for the opening of MGM. Today, you will hear from various members of what I call Team MGM Springfield. And they will discuss with you our traffic plans, our public safety plans, and you will also hear from our economic development deputy. So I invite you to listen when it's our turn, because we are excited to share with you all of the great things that we have been doing in preparation for this great opening day. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.
Thank you. And please give our regards to the mayor.
I will. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, item number 2 on the agenda is the approval of the minutes. Commissioner Stebbins.
Sure, Mr. Chairman, I move that the commission approve the minutes in the packet from the meeting on July 19th, 2018, subject to any immaterial corrections or grammatical changes. Just to note that Commissioner Zuniga and I were absent from that meeting, so we cannot vote.
Okay. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously, and that would be Chairman Crosby and Commissioner O'Brien and Commissioner Cameron. Next up is the Racing Division and Executive Director Bedrosian. This is an item that we put on the agenda after it was formally published 2 days ago, because we only learned yesterday morning, that the racing legislation, the legislation that authorizes horse racing and simulcasting, which is a practical matter, means betting on horse racing. That law was expired on the evening of Monday. I think it was Monday night. So yesterday we had no horse racing. We put this item on the agenda to see whether we needed to do anything about it. And Executive Director Bedrosian has kind of been overseeing our relationship with the legislature and will bring us up to date on where we're at.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
As you know, the Commonwealth racing legislation expired, as you said, Mr. Chairman, at midnight, July 31st. Because that legislation was not extended on the morning of August 1st, yesterday, after consulting with our legal department and Chairman Crosby, I sent a letter to our racing licensees informing them that they must cease both racing and simulcasting operations. I currently understand the legislature is working on a solution to this issue which may be an extension to the previous law. In the short run, here are the actions I have taken in addition to sending the previously mentioned letter. I am having our staff report for the next few days and accomplish work hopefully in preparation of racing continuing. I received a request late yesterday from Plainridge Park Casino to shift today's racing day to tomorrow in anticipation of a potential legislative fix. I authorized that move with the understanding that I'd be able to inform the Commission of that today. Right now, the best I can say is we're in a bit of a wait-and-see mode. From a regulatory perspective, my concern is the longer that racing/simulcasting is not operational, the greater risk of us losing our seasonal employees who are well-trained and experienced in their jobs but do get paid when they actually work. So I'd hate to lose a regulatory capability if this lapse goes on too long. If this were a short-term gap, I don't anticipate a problem for us to be back up and running. Finally, to state the obvious, which I think everyone is aware, there are hundreds of direct jobs at our licensees that are affected, and indirectly countless others who depend upon racing. So that's really the update. Obviously, I will be watching and communicating with members of the legislature, our licensees, and if anything actually happens during the meeting, I will let you know.
Great. Anybody else, comments or anything?
I'm just hopeful they come to an agreement because, you know, many of those employees are ours, and the many other employees we've gotten to know over our 6 years regulating racing. So just hopeful that something good will happen.
Great. We're with you on that, Commissioner. Okay, we are going to item number 4, Ombudsman Ziemba.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. On the agenda today is a presentation on the planning for MGM Springfield's opening and the anticipated traffic. We will also hear an update from Springfield Deputy Director of Economic Development, Brian Connors, regarding the significant progress the City of Springfield has been experiencing. Before we start, this is the last time the Commission will be in Springfield before the opening, I would like to thank all of those in the City of Springfield with whom we have worked to get ready for this upcoming opening day. We thank the Mayor and his staff, Kevin Kennedy and Ed Picula and their staffs for all of their efforts in our joint goal to help the Commonwealth and the City of Springfield realize the benefits of this fantastic project. Specifically, in relation to the topics of today's presentations, we thank the City through Department of Public Works Director Chris Signoli, Commissioner Barbieri, and all of their colleagues for working so hard to prepare for the opening. As the Commission is aware, the City, the Commission, and MGM Springfield have stressed the importance of being ready for the opening. I know that the presentation will also give due praise to our other state partners, including the State Police and MassDOT, who are playing an important role. With that as a background, I turn it over to Alex Dixon, MGM Springfield General Manager, who will lead the discussion regarding Springfield's successes and regarding preparations for the opening.
Thank you, John. Alex, before you start, we try to make a point of recognizing distinguished public officials who are with us, and I know City Council President Orlando Ramos is here, or at least I believe is here, and we wanted to make sure, thank you. We appreciate your help. The City Council has been very supportive of this project as well.
Great.
Alex.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
We are counting down the days and hours until we open our doors in less than 22 days. The anticipation from everyone involved in this resort is at fever pitch. We are more excited now than ever to see this become a reality. We have been working hard to prepare for the excitement ahead and are keenly aware of the traffic and parking challenges faced by residents, business, and visitors in the downtown area. To that end, we've been working diligently with the Springfield Police Department, Public Works, Massachusetts State Police, and other state and local agencies to effectively manage the expected high volume of visitors on opening day. For more than a year now, we have been meeting weekly and sometimes twice a week to effectively identify, address, and improve traffic flows in the Springfield area. While additional traffic will bring more visitors to downtown, we are confident our efforts will help to mitigate the impacts of our new facility. By coordinating with neighbors, businesses, state and local law enforcement agencies, and transportation departments, we developed a plan that integrates multi-agency efforts to anticipate and mitigate traffic issues. It's been a pleasure to work collaboratively with the city to develop this comprehensive parking and traffic plan in preparation for our grand opening. I'd like to give a special recognition to our Executive Director of Security, Jason Rucker, who has worked tirelessly, as well as the entire city staff. And to the residents of the city of Springfield, you all should be encouraged and pleased by the hard work that the men and women from the city leadership, from the mayor on down, has done to ensure that we hold our end of the bargain to make sure that we mitigate. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to Deputy Director Brian Connors to overview some economic development.
Thank you, Alex. I'm joined here today by Director of Public Works, Chris Signoli, and Police Commissioner John Barbieri. They'll get into the nuts and bolts of traffic and police in a moment. What we wanted to do was just kind of cover sort of where we've been in the world of economic development. Mayor Sarno and Kevin Kennedy, who sends his regards and his gratitude for working with you folks all these years, have talked a lot about how MGM Springfield is a big part of our economic development plan. But there are other components to it. And so we've talked a lot about the things that we wanted to get done by opening, and we're happy to be here today to report that we've completed so many of these things. So Wanted to take a look at a few of the benchmarks that have happened before we got into this process. So this really started for us in sort of a time frame, the June 2011 tornado, which struck, really touched down at the site, the MGM Springfield site. So, on the left you can see Main Street and sort of the scale of Main Street and some of the buildings we lost. And on the right, you folks were on site today, and you can see that's the heart of the entertainment plaza, the Armory building, and the back drill shed building, which we lost in the tornado. And I'm sure Commissioner Stebbins recalls these photos as he was out there with me the day after doing some business response. So it's, in a matter of 7 years, you can see this site being reborn. Just a year and a half later, in our downtown, we experienced a major gas explosion. We had 42 buildings damaged in our downtown, injured 18 people. And so it was just another hit, from our south end to our downtown, economically, physically, and really emotionally to our city. And so that began our planning process, both in our innovation district and the gaming process as well. And so a big date, obviously, was July 2013, 5 years from now, or 5 years to today, where we had the city vote, where the city approved the MGM project by a 58% margin. And then we had groundbreaking in 2015, and an excited crowd, and we have an even more excited crowd as we await opening just a little over 3 years later. So some of the things that have gone on in that time frame, obviously, Union Station. I think I skipped a couple. There we go. So Union Station, we got open last June. We won a national award for the best brownfield redevelopment in the country, the Phoenix Award through the EPA. That was awarded last December, so we're very proud of that. The Springfield Redevelopment Authority worked hard, under the leadership of the mayor and Kevin and Congressman Neal. We welcome companies like Peter Pan and Dietz Architecture and mixed-use building. We have jobs there and many modes of transit through bus, intercity, and intra-city, as well as a new parking garage and bike facilities. All right. There we go. We welcomed commuter rail just a couple months ago to Hartford and New Haven, opening up a whole new way of transit and for folks to get down into these workplaces and for people down in Connecticut to get up to visit Springfield and our attractions. 10,000 riders the first week of service, and we're studying East-West Rail, which has been funded through Mass DOT this year. One of the things we wanted to do was to make sure we're going to have this wonderful, nearly billion-dollar complex, all shiny and new, looks fantastic. We wanted to make sure that visitors who leave the facility see a great-looking downtown Springfield and South End. So we focused on our public spaces. We did a $6.9 million project with help from MGM through funding for infrastructure. New paving, sidewalks, crosswalks, public space improvements. You see a before and after there on Cross Street, which is right across the street from the hotel. So this is what hotel visitors will see when they open their curtains. And we did things like bike boxes and adopted complete streets. And the center photo you see there is our new wayfinding system. So we have a new pedestrian wayfinding system to get folks to and from our attractions. 50 new signs that are being installed today and will be complete for opening. Seems to be skipping a little bit. We're investing in all of our downtown parks. So every one of our parks is being redeveloped in one way or another. To the left, you see Stearns Square, which is under a $2 million overhaul, and Duryea Way, which is a connection point between Union Station and our downtown. To the right is our 9/11 Memorial, which is a steampunk design that reflects on the piece of steel that Springfield received after the 9/11 tragedy. So Riverfront Park is nearing completion, as is Stearns, and then the park behind this building here, Pynchon Park, which connects us to the museums, received a $3 million MassWorks grant to reopen that connection for convention goers and MGM guests who want to get up and see the Dr. Seuss Museum. We're welcoming new businesses, so we're excited about the things that are already happening in terms of businesses. We just had our grand opening for Holiday Inn Express on State Street, just a block and a half from MGM, 98-room new hotel. A couple of businesses on either side of that on State Street, a new suit shop, and they came here because they knew there were going to be a lot more professionals downtown, the 3,000 employees at MGM Springfield, so they just opened a few months ago. And then a new family entertainment destination, escape room. So Springfield got its first escape room, which is right on the other side of the hotel. So we're starting to see new businesses pop up along State Street, which is pretty exciting. And as well as downtown, we have a new Starbucks downtown at our 100% corner at Bolin Way and Main Street at Monarch Place, which is really, you know, we're always trying to get people out of the towers and to experience things down on the street level at Springfield, and these things have started to do that. The museums have experienced a tremendous influx of new visitors, 167% increase since the Dr. Seuss Museum opened. So again, connecting visitors to that destination is important to us. They just held their Indian Motorcycle Day. So we're thrilled to finally have a Dr. Seuss Museum. A lot of folks thought we had one all this time. We had a sculpture garden. So as of last June, we have the new museum, and it's been a huge, huge attraction. CRRC Railways is in production now, so they've got the first cars for their Orange and Red Line contract of $500 million through the MBTA to build 152 Orange Line cars and 252 Red Line cars. The first cars will be delivered around the first of the year. They've also gained some other contracts in other cities like Los Angeles and Philadelphia. So we're excited about that, 150 new manufacturing jobs. They have enough work to go until 2025 as it stands today, so exciting project for us there. We're investing in workforce. We teamed up with the EDC of Western Mass, MGM as well, and many other local stakeholders, including higher education, to apply to the Federal Reserve for Working Cities Challenge Grant. One of our big things is we have a lot of job opportunities in Springfield, and it's connecting our residents with training opportunities and to get into those jobs. So we were successful. It's a very competitive application. We're thrilled to get it, and we're now implementing the Springfield Works program. And so the first stage of that is a new community technology portal, which basically puts all of the jobs available in Springfield and connects residents with those training opportunities and those jobs all in one place. Rise Up Springfield, thanks to some support through the Mass Gaming Commission, we welcomed the Interrise program, nationally known small business development program, helping to ramp up our small businesses here. So we had our first class this year. We graduated 12 small businesses. You can see their photo there. The city, the Association of Black Businesses and Professionals, and the Springfield Chamber of Commerce all partnered together to get that done. And we'll be starting our next class in September. So, you know, that just kind of is the tip of the iceberg. You know, one of the other elements we've done is market rate housing. We've talked a lot about that over the years. We now have Silverbrick Lofts is the most recent example of a completed project, 265 units downtown that were rehabbed and have been very popular. They've just recently purchased another building for another 100 units at 122 Chestnut Street, and they've applied for us and been approved for a market rate housing tax incentive. As well as the Willis Overland building, which is another 60 units on top of that. So that's being done by Davenport Company. So between those projects, we have nearly 500 units of new market rate housing, either completed or in the pipeline, worth about $35 million in total investment. And others kind of looking around now, seeing the commuter rail, seeing the MGM, and seeing this as an opportunity for market rate housing. So that's certainly been a point where we're seeing developers show interest. Hotels is the other side that we're seeing developers show a lot of interest. Thanks to MGM's right-sized hotel, I think other hotelers and developers are seeing there's opportunity here. So just quickly, we're starting to get some great accolades because of all of this. So the CEO of MassMutual, obviously Springfield's top Fortune 500 company, recently said the vibe in Springfield is as positive as they've seen it in 30 years. And just in July, Business West came out with a story titled "Springfield's Economy Continues to Outperform Hartford." And this economic advisor from Farmington Bank, Don Kepler-Smith, said, "When I think about Springfield, two words come to mind, and that's stellar performance. I think economic development policies are the reason why Springfield is doing as well as it is." So, we're thrilled to see a lot of progress on the things we wanted to get done before MGM opened, so we kind of have done this in concert. And again, it's been a great pleasure working with the Gaming Commission and MGM Springfield. And I think with that, we can move on to the traffic and public safety portion. I believe I turn it over to Director of Public Works, Chris Signoli.
Thank you, Brian. Good afternoon, Commissioners. First of all, as Alex had mentioned before, our team has been working together for a number of years now, but starting in February of this year, we really started to get together to discuss grand opening. One of the things over the past few weeks that we have done in coordination with Joe Delaney and John Ziemba and his team is basically look at on-site and off-site work that needed to be done in association with Section 61 findings, Mass DOT, the EIR, et cetera. And we were happy to report to the Gaming Commission that the work is substantially complete. There's still some punch list items, but this facility can open. And we are ready in the city of Springfield for that. One of the things that we've done over the past few years is that since beginning of February, is we have met every Tuesday between MGM, City of Springfield, DPW, Police, Fire, all of the entities, MGM, Mass State Police, Gaming Commission has come later to see where we are, and Mass DOT to look at what we're doing. With regard specifically for the grand opening, one of the things that we're doing, and we've coordinated already with Mass DOT, 7 days ahead, Mass Turnpike, I-291, I-91, all of the overhead sides will be activated, notifying people that the MGM facility will be opening on the 24th. So we have all of that in place, coordinated with Mass DOT. At a later time, the messages changes when we have ramp closures, et cetera. But the other thing is that in the city of Springfield, we will be having message boards 7 days in advance, or 7 to 10 days in advance, that we'll be talking about our on-street closures. So the way that we're looking at it is nobody can drive in or around the city of Springfield in advance of this project not knowing what's going to be happening. Nobody's going to be waking up on the morning of the 24th and find out that its street's closed. We're going to be spending a lot of time, and we have over the past few days, getting the word out of what's going to be happening in the city of Springfield. In downtown, we will be having locations where there will be road closures starting at 4 a.m. of the day and then going through the afternoon. Once the facility is open and all of the pedestrians after the staging, as Alex mentioned, the procession that's going to be happening, once that is complete and the pedestrians are into the facility, we can begin to open up roadways in and around the city. In order to do that, we are also doing no parking on a lot of the streets. One of the things that we had a concern about between the DPW, police, and fire, AMR, was with the amount of people that we're expecting in the city, we want to be able to get emergency equipment in there when we need it. If the morning of the 24th is a hot morning and there's a lot of people staging to get in, we want to make sure that we can service people in case there's any medical issues. So we have no parking for the weekend and for certain days in downtown as well. Working with MGM, they've developed a shuttle that will be working from the Big E to the facility that will be operating 6 a.m. The day of the facility and going to 8 a.m. the next morning. So we worked on them and creating the route in and around the city. One of the other things that we've done is that we, underneath 91 on our ramps, Union Street, Broad Street, State Street, is to close some of those overpasses to better be able to control the traffic in and around the facility. The facility is opening at 11 a.m. So one of the things that we want to make sure of is how vehicles will be able to get into the garage if they're so inclined to be in the city. We are highly encouraging everybody to use the Big E as much as possible to be able to have as little traffic in the city as possible. But if they are, they're going to be getting into a garage queue, and one of the things we wanted to make sure is manage a nice little circulation around the city to be able to control the traffic in the city. One of the things that we discussed is with a parking garage of 3,500 or so vehicles, if you get one car into that garage every 3 seconds, it's still going to take you 3 hours to load the garage. So we know we're going to be dealing with cars out on the city streets, hence the reason we really wanted to put a high-end plan into effect. We've worked with Mass DOT about closures of highway ramps for the specific reason of we don't want to dump a highway ramp right into the middle of that traffic. So starting at 6 a.m. on the 24th and going to 4 p.m., exit 6, northbound and southbound is going to be closed. Once this meeting is complete, we can then submit our application, formal application to District 2 for that, but that's already been approved, and they're happy with the plan that we're going to be doing. MGM is going to be initiating the Loop Bus program in the city. Once those roads are back open, there's going to be a number of locations throughout the city where you're going to be able to get on the Loop system to get in and around the MGM facility, plus all the other areas in the city, the Hall of Fame, the Quadrangle, Union Station, the Dining District, to be able to get your way around the city. So once other parking areas after that Friday and moving on and forward, you can park, a half mile away at the museums, catch the Loop, go down to the casino. You don't always have to go into downtown to do that. And we're very happy that that's going to be operating about 1 o'clock or so on Friday. Not going to go into detail on a lot of these plans, but really what we wanted to show is the coordination that the DPW with MGM and especially with the police department, Lieutenant Beliveau, Captain Huffnagel, Deputy Chief Cochran, and Commissioner Barberi, we've probably had over 100 meetings together where we've gone through this in extreme detail so that the work that DPW is doing on the street is coordinated with what the police need to do, what their people to do, and vice versa. So in just kind of flipping through these plans very, very quickly, all we're trying to do is show you the level of detail that we have all had to go into to show where things are going to be controlled in downtown, where police will be, where DPW will be, and how people are going to get in and around the facility. All the way to the point of being able to come over the bridge with a dedicated lane to get into the city of Springfield for the buses from the Big E. We wanted to make sure if somebody's going to the Big E and they're getting on that bus, that they're able to get into the city without having to sit there for 45 minutes. That really doesn't help us. So we've done that management. This plan is what we really want to roll out to our citizens so that they understand what they're going to be running into in the city on that day, where no parking will be, etc. So really what we want to show the people here and everybody on the Gaming Commission is the amount of coordination, cooperation that has been going on between all of the entities. The plan and everything we've shown here has been reviewed, accepted by MGM, reviewed and accepted by Mass DOT, the state police, and obviously police and fire and all the entities in the city. A lot of these plans can be rolled out in the future when major events are coming into the city and through MGM, when we know that we may have to do additional traffic control. So while this is the one-time thing for the weekend, it's also something that we can roll out at any time that we need to in the future. Know where traffic control is going to be, know where road closures need to be, and know how people are going to get in and out of the garage as we need to as well. So the coordination on this then really rolled into what the police need to do, where they're going to be and how they're going to be controlling downtown, number one, with what they have to do just from a crowd control and policing standpoint, and number two, from a assistance of the management of the road closures that we have to do in the city. So what I'd like to do at this point is to turn it over to Commissioner John Barbieri, and he can go through the details of what the policing plan is going to be.
Thank you, Director Signoli.
Before you do that, just a minute, I just have a question,
Sure.
Mr. Signoli. So the road closures that you highlighted around the site,
Yes.
Are mostly for Friday, for the Friday morning?
The road yes.
Until 2 p.m., is that?
4 a.m., we're going to be starting at 4 a.m. And basically, once we say 1 p.m., basically when we, being MGM, DPW, and the police, feel it's good enough to be, and all the pedestrians are off the street, because we know that there's going to be, waiting, all the people waiting around the grand opening procession. It's going to take them a while to get in. And we know with a lot of people standing in the street, they may just stand there for a while. So once it becomes safe to open those roads and the police have a very good handle on the pedestrian movements, then we're going to open those up. So we're saying 1 p.m., whenever it's safe to do it. If it's 11:15, we're going to do it. But, we're guessing that it's going to be 1 p.m.
Is that the same for the
Just interrupt.
91?
If I could just interrupt 1 sec, I just got a message that the horse racing legislation, extending horse racing, has been passed in the House and Senate. It is now on the way to the governor for his signature.
Thank you.
Sorry to interrupt you.
I'm sorry, Commissioner.
Yes, so is that the same procedure for the ramp closures
The
on
ramp
91? Or
closures
is that
will
a separate-
be 6 a.m. to 4 p.m. Those are set hard so that we can control the traffic. One of the things that we're going to do in the city is we are not going to let vehicles queue up to get into the garage while the garage is still closed. When the decision is made to open the garage, the police and DPW, number one, we're encouraging people to find other places, especially the Big E, but we don't want people sitting in downtown Springfield for 7 or 8 or 9 hours, hoping to be the first person in. So we're going to keep that traffic moving, and we think by 4 o'clock in the afternoon, the management of the traffic, being able to get on and off the highway, will be better. So that's set from 6 a.m. to 4 p.m.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Director Signoli. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Welcome back to Springfield.
Thank you.
So robust plan, and I have to applaud the coordination and collaboration from the team at the Springfield Police Department, Director Signoli, Economic Development, and obviously MGM. So a lot of thought put into this by people that have been especially trained. I'm blessed to have some really good people on my staff. Plan really incorporates not just the opening, but the opening weekend. It starts midnight on Friday, August 24th, and the operation runs through Sunday, August 26th through 4 p.m. So beginning on Friday, August 24th at midnight, we'll have 1 sergeant and 6 Metro officers just patrolling the metro area and the area around the casino and the economic development zone downtown. Around 4 a.m., the roadways start to close. It'll be a combination of cones and barricades and police officers for soft closures, and be a combination of cones, barricades, some cruisers, and then dump trucks manned by the DPW for hard closures. Hard closure will be in the areas that we're expected to experience large numbers of pedestrian traffic, areas with planned events, and then obviously gathering points for the entrance to the casino. The soft closures will be to facilitate orderly traffic flow. They'll also obviously be able to be opened in an emergency or to facilitate an emergency outlet if there's a traffic buildup. The 6 Metro officers and the supervisor will assist the DPW in placing all that equipment down. And then at 5:30 a.m., the day shift starts to report in to the substation directly behind the Mass Mutual Center at 75 Dwight Street. And that'll include 56 total officers in various deployments. The impacted areas have been divided into 4 quadrants for command and control, each supervised by a captain, supplemented by lieutenants and sergeants. There'll be 5 captains, 3 lieutenants, 6 sergeants, and 30 officers on patrol traffic posts. Additionally, acting as safety and security for the entire metro area, and obviously able to assist the State Police and Springfield Gaming Unit Enforcement Task Force in the casino. That'll be 16 officers and 1 supervisor. Additionally, there is an emergency response team of 4 officers on enduro motorcycles that are able to access any place remotely, and 10 tactical response unit supervised officers that'll be in uniform with their unmarked cars, with their emergency equipment. We'll also have our armored vehicles staged out of sight and prepared to go. We've also rented 6 ATV Gator transport vehicles so we can transport officers back and forth and we can rapidly deploy through traffic. The 2 other tactical response unit teams are on standby. They're alerted for potential call-in. At 6 a.m., the State Police will close Interstates 91's exit 6 north and south. That'll be closed till 4 p.m., as Director Signoli mentioned. At 6 a.m., the MGM parking shuttles from the Big E will begin to arrive at Court Street and City Hall Place. At 8 a.m., the 10 members of our tactical response unit, acting as an incident response team, will stage at various strategic locations within the perimeter. The Bear tactical vehicle will be at the staging area on Cross Street, out of sight. At 9 a.m., the MGM garage opens and begins to accept some patrons. Again, the regular hard opening is at 11 a.m. At 10:15 to 10:30 a.m.
What's the distinction between 9 and 11 in terms of what's?
We're really focusing people at 11 a.m.
I think it's VIP for some people at 9, sir.
So what happens at 9?
No, in the event that there's a backup of traffic in the downtown area, there's a potential we may open it up at 9 a.m.
You could, right, okay,
but for the public, we will be opening the garages at 11 a.m.
Okay.
Sorry, I didn't get a chance to make that distinct. I apologize. At 1 p.m., we'll do a review based on milestones as to whether to open up the hard point closures. Additionally, there'll be 2 operating emergency operation centers. If all the milestones are met, which includes obviously the MGM parking facility is at maximum capacity and full, and the pedestrian areas are clear, then we'll start to demobilize. The hard closure areas, the officers that are manning that will actually move to protect pedestrian foot traffic around the MGM area. The Springfield Police Department extra details associated with that will stay in their public safety patrols until the conclusion of their assigned shift at 4 p.m. At 3:30 p.m., the incoming evening shift will start, and they will also meet at the substation for roll call. For staffing on the evening shift, due to the demobilization and the road closure, staffing will be reduced, but it'll still be significant. There'll be 37 total officers. The deployment will consist of, with the Metro officers, which 16 officers and 1 supervisor, will be on standby to assist in the event of a security incident or emergency response. The other officers will continue to focus on maintaining the Memorial Bridge, Big E bus loop, and traffic flow on East Columbus Ave and Hall of Fame Ave. As we go into the overnight shift from 11:30 to 800 hours, at 11:30, 28 total officers will be working, 3 captains, 3 lieutenants, 5 sergeants, 21 patrol officers, and a 7-personnel Metro unit. And again, the maintain will be soft closure traffic points to continue to focus on maintaining traffic flow. As we go into Saturday morning, we'll reevaluate to see if as we're going into the morning, to see if we have to re-emulate Friday's plan. As it is, we're expecting to be able to run with reduced numbers because there's not going to be the events. We plan on having 34 total officers in various deployments. The elimination of the bus route will reduce personnel demand at 8 in the morning. We'll have 2 captains, 2 lieutenants, 4 sergeants, 14 patrol officers on traffic posts. And again, we'll have 16 Metro officers and a supervisor doing security patrol along with the 4 Enduro motorcycles. On the evening shift, going into the evening shift at 3:30 p.m., the incoming evening shift will start. At 8 a.m. on Saturday, the parking shuttles will have ceased, which eases the burden for the evening shift. So the evening shift comes in. They'll primarily have to worry about mitigation of traffic south of the MGM venue on East Columbus and the Hall of Fame. And at 4 o'clock, we'll start to demobilize all the auxiliary traffic reserves in support of the MGM weekend. We run into Sunday with the same reduced staffing as Saturday, and again, the Emergency Operations Center will remain open for as long as needed, and then if there's a change in plans that are needed, the Emergency Operations Center and the command staff will mobilize. Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Just if I may, Commissioner, having been involved with you and your leadership team on another project to do with this casino, and certainly having been involved with the state police, I just want to commend all of you on the level of preparedness. I've been around a lot of planning for big events as well as opening of casinos from a policing standpoint. And the level of coordination that I see and the level of commitment to have a smooth opening, both with traffic, crime, and all the other emergency events that could occur, it's just, to me, it's astounding. You've been at it for months, working hard, working shoulder to shoulder with other agencies, and I just want to commend all of you for this level of preparedness, because people don't realize how much work is involved and what a level of commitment it really is to make something look seamless. So from someone who has a little experience, I just want to say great work, all of you, and the coordination is, I was in there this morning, actually, and saw the Springfield PD and State Police working shoulder to shoulder, and it was refreshing, and I think it's really going to pay off.
Thank you, ma'am. We have a really great relationship with our local, state, and federal partners, and a great team in Springfield altogether. We're really blessed. Great.
As we both know, that's not always the case, so it's refreshing to see.
Thank you.
And Commissioners, we just have a couple of brief tips, if we could bring back up the traffic and parking, just simple steps for a smooth ride. This really kicks off now that we set the stage of what the city has done to help prepare us for this day. We really go into marketing and PR mode, and so we'll have just a quick flip through of some of the marketing assets that we'll be using to be able to get the story out. So first and foremost, our best advice is to plan ahead. Come early and stay late. Know where you want to park, and then consider using alternative means of transportation, whether that be the loop that we've rolled out, bus transportation with our partners in the PVTA, or Uber or rideshare coming downtown. We talked about the schedule, but just to highlight, MGM Springfield will be opening up to the public at approximately 11 a.m. In line with our garage. Festivities will begin at 10:30 a.m. with a procession of hundreds of employees, as well as some of our construction workers, beginning at State and Main Street. And we'll be joined by the world-famous Budweiser Clydesdales and other surprise entertainment the morning of the 24th. Guests are invited to view this procession as it heads south on Main Street before entering into the resort. Here on the screen, you can see where people will enter into our facilities. We are dispersing folks out through the 5 different entrances, both from our garage as well as the pedestrian level along Main Street in our Armory Plaza. Along Main Street, guests will be queuing outside of a barricade, and the procession will begin in the inside of that barricade, and will be joined and led by the mayor as well as Mike Mathis, who will open our doors to our customers right around that 11 o'clock time frame. Guest queuing, as people start to arrive from the Big E, will be in a Court Square, which is looking beautiful, great new paved roads and streets. And people will get off into Court Square and then walk over to the facility and then be able to be joined by into the procession. People will be picking up those buses to go back to the Big E at the same places where they were dropped off.
Alex, can I ask one question? So
Sure.
is there one overall queuing, or at that point on Court Square, or is that?
So there'll be
different?
several. So once you get off the bus, you'll then be going down Main Street in a large area. And then once we take the barricades down after the procession, people will be directed to several of the different points where they may be able to enter so that we prevent any rush on any one of the single doors.
Yes.
This is the benefit of the porous design that we have of multiple entrances, and people will be able to get inside safely. We've been working very closely with the fire commissioner and the fire marshal as well to make sure that we have a smooth entrance. So again, the big message coming out of today is to park at the Big E. For those who have been in the Western Mass community, people have been going to the Big E for years, and West Springfield has done a phenomenal job. And I want to thank Gene and Greg Chico over at the Big E for partnering with us to allow us to be able to use their facility on our big day. This will be free to customers, both the shuttle and the parking, and we'll be able to get over to Court Square. It's been a pleasure working with Chris and Commissioner Barbieri to get this dedicated line and working with the city of West Springfield coming across Memorial Bridge to ensure guests who may be coming to this area for the first time have a very smooth ride. So in terms of communication, as I said, this launches into our indications of the communications we'll be having, not only with the other regional markets, whether that's in Albany, Worcester, Hartford, and here in Western Massachusetts, but most specifically, we've been working with our abutters, our local community groups. Jose Delgado, our Director of Government Affairs, has done a phenomenal job in making sure that we continue to communicate as we have been during the construction timeframe. So at this point, I'd love to bring up an animation to give you a sense. We've been talking about opening day, but post-opening, we want to make sure that people are educated. And this quick animation will give you a sense of some of the assets that we'll be using to make sure that people are aware of how to plan their trip to get down here to MGM Springfield. The rest of the presentation goes through some of the other infographics that we'll be utilizing. These will be posted to our website immediately following this discussion here today. But with that, commissioners, we're ready. We've been working with the city, and it's been a pleasure. I want to personally thank Denise Jordan, who's moving on, but she's stuck it out to make sure that we have a great opening day, and we appreciate your leadership and everything you've done for the city. Thank you, commissioners.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any questions or comments?
Quick question. You have a couple of test nights. Can you share how those unfold, or
Yeah,
people you're expected
absolutely.
for
And we'll
those?
get into this a little bit later today with the commissioner, but a couple of the headlines, excuse me. So on August 16th, we'll hold our first test night. It'll take place from 2 to 8 p.m. This will be mostly friends and family of MGM Springfield employees, as well as the hardworking men and women of the construction team. Union labor has helped us to make sure that we're able to open on time, and we want to reward them with the first opportunity to give us some feedback. We've been beating them up and making sure we get into our spaces, so they'll beat us up as we serve them on a great night.
What all will be open on the 16th?
So on the 16th, it'll be all of our tables and slots will be open. Tap will be open as well. We won't be having people get onto the second floor. We're really focusing on the core gaming functionality. We've been working hard at work with Bruce Band and the team to make sure that we're able to demonstrate that we are ready and open to the public. But it'll be primarily the functions on the first level of the facility. The second one, for everyone's benefit, will be August 20th. It will take place from 4 to 10 p.m., and we are going to be, again, welcoming several thousand guests. We think we'll be able to accommodate all of them within our facility and inside of our parking garage, but we're in close coordination, again, with the city to make sure that any adverse impact, that we have a good mitigation plan in place.
And what date is that?
That is August 20th.
20th.
Mm-hmm.
You may have mentioned these before or alluded to these, but what happens if the garage becomes full at some point after you open it?
Absolutely. So we fully anticipate that we'll reach capacity. We have a capacity plan in place for communicating to the general public as well as local downtown businesses. Fortunately, with the Springfield Parking Authority, there are several parking garages within the immediate vicinity, and the variable messaging boards as well as human arrows we'll have in the downtown area to be able to direct people once we do reach capacity to get to other places. But again, really, this is most acute on Friday, and that's really why we've invested the great deal of time and resource and energy in communicating to people to head to the Big E. Park there where you have certainty. You can get on the bus, you can get on the shuttle, and get in there in time in order to see the procession.
Anybody else? Great. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Terrific
Thank you.
presentation. Next up is item number 5, Research and Responsible Gaming, Director Van der Linden. While we set up, I'm going to get a cup of coffee. We are reconvening, and we are going to Director Van der Linden.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I'm joined with Elaine and Teresa. I'd also like to point out Mike Sangalang. We worked incredibly hard to bring and evolve the GameSense brand to what you will see here today. So Responsible Gaming Education Week is August 6th through 10th. And in honor of Responsible Gaming Week, we're excited to debut to you the latest adaptation of our responsible gaming program that we call GameSense. Sorry. You can see we're evolving the GameSense brand. We're not abandoning it and picking up a new brand. And some of the changes you'll notice are quite slight. Some you'll notice there's a different tone to it. But as you can see here, you see the old GameSense logo and what we have adopted as the new GameSense logo. Just a little bit about GameSense. GameSense is an innovative, player-focused, responsible gaming program that encourages players to adopt behaviors and attitudes that reduce the risk of developing gambling problems. The MGC, as you know, adopted GameSense from the British Columbia Lottery Corporation over 3 years ago after a wide-ranging search, both nationally and internationally, to find a robust and effective responsible gaming program that would fit the needs of Massachusetts and specifically of the Massachusetts Gaming Commission. The program continues to garner international recognition and praise for its effectiveness. I think you'll see that the evolution of the brand is both, the effectiveness and recognition is both because it continues to evolve, as well as the general messaging and that it continues to carry forward throughout the campaign. So there are 6 brand pillars to GameSense. First, it's educational. It provides practical tips, tools, and information that players can use. It's approachable. It provides information in a non-judgmental, non-threatening, and easy-to-understand way. It's welcoming. Whether you're visiting the website or visiting the GameSense Information Center, it welcomes you in and invites you to stay a while. It's relatable. Much like the Responsible Gaming Framework points out, it provides information that's tailored to the different types of players, whether you're a recreational player, whether you're an at-risk player, or whether you're a player that's experiencing gambling-related problems. It's supportive, specifically tailored for individuals who may be experiencing a gambling-related problem, specifically tailored for family members who have a family member who may be experiencing a problem. GameSense is there and provides valuable information when you need it. And it's fun. You know, just like going to a casino should be fun, we wanted to adopt a brand that also had the same goal. I think that you'll see from the next slides that we developed or evolved this brand in a way that is entertaining, that's funny, I hope you see that, and that's enjoyable. I'll turn it over to Elaine.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So I know that at the June 7th meeting, we did take you through some of the new brand and introduce you a bit to the new concept with our advertising partners, which is KHJ Brand Activation. What we didn't show you at the time was more of the finished product and also the website that was completed yesterday and made live last night. So we're really excited to unveil that today. I think one of the things, the main topic today, though, is to explain a little bit more thoroughly and briefly the overall communications plan, how we envision rolling that out at MGM Springfield, and also how we intend to introduce the program to Western Mass. So basically, we started out about 7 months ago with a very clear set of objectives, which is to increase brand awareness, generate traffic to the new mobile-friendly website, highlight the specific resources and tools, educate the public about positive play, specifically in Western Mass in advance of the MGM opening, promote overall informed player choice, and reinforce our commitment to responsible gaming. In order to meet those objectives, we laid out a very clear strategy for KHJ, including implementing the new brand that was led by BCLC, but also to further customize the concept to highlight the elements that are unique to Massachusetts, namely the GameSense Info Center and our advisors. As you'll see shortly, we tried to find, we made our creative choices around really highlighting one of the strongest elements of the program, which is the success of the GameSense advisors that are on site at each casino. We'll be launching a very aggressive advertising and marketing campaign to increase awareness of GameSense. We've also created a full public relations campaign to continually educate the public about the program. And then we've also created a complementary digital strategy over our social media channels that will support all of the earlier stated objectives. So I was going to have Mike Sangalang played a big role in helping to pull together the website. He's in the driver's seat back there today, so otherwise he would have been up here with us explaining it. So I will do my best. But today we will be introducing everybody to Chip. Chip is our fictional GameSense advisor, but also our positive play ambassador. And you'll see that, like we said, we incorporated a lot of the great elements from BCLC, but we really wanted to customize the program to highlight what's unique about Massachusetts. So we are thrilled to unveil our new website that's far more mobile-friendly than the previous site. We think it's really easily navigated. We introduced a significant amount of entertaining elements, functional games and quizzes so that we can engage a lot of the site's visitors. So as you can see here, there are myths and games. We also, one of the theme of this site is Pearls of GameSense by Chip. One of the things that we're really excited is you can see the thought bubbles throughout the site. Those are the pearls. And we actually try to incorporate a lot of the research that we have thus far. So we wanted to find a way to incorporate all of that research throughout the site. You'll see a section here called How Gambling Works. Mike Sangalang and Teresa worked very closely with the IEB to come up with a list of game guides and helpful information. As you can see, here's the Blackjack game guide. And another really important section of the site is quick and easy access to support services, including seniors in gambling, veterans in gambling, quick links to the various resources like the Mass Council. If I'm forgetting anything, please chime in. And then, so what we'd love to do next is show you the site is populated with a series of quick videos, 30-second videos of our, again, GameSense guru Chip introducing GameSense. Let's start with the first video.
Hey there, dear hearts. My name is Chip. You know, fortune favors the well-informed. Facts, knowledge, gambling know-how. These could be the difference between gambling responsibly and chasing your losses down a rabbit hole. We call this GameSense. It's a heightened state of gambling wisdom that any player can achieve. Here, we'll bust the myths of gambling and impart such pearls of GameSense as the importance of remembering to take breaks, setting time limits, accepting your losses as the cost of entertainment, and how to walk away from a slot machine that's breaking your heart. Now, are you ready to gamble like a winner?
As you can see, it's a light-hearted approach, and again, intended to engage everyone and as the pillars that Mark pointed out in a non-judgmental, light-hearted, supportive way. And then if we could, and I'll show you just one more, but there are numerous videos, brief videos throughout the site that cover a series of themes. So let's just show this one.
Pearls of GameSense by Chip.
Blowing on your dice won't improve your chances of winning. All it will do is spread your germs around everywhere. And that won't be very lucky for the next person who picks them up, now will it? Truth is, superstition can't improve your odds. Play with the facts. Take our gambling myths quiz.
And then I'll turn it over to Teresa, where we'll talk a little bit, very briefly, about the marketing campaign. So the significant amount of in-casino signage that will highlight the existence of the Gambling Info Center, the GameSense Info Center, the GameSense advisors, and then also the drive traffic to the website.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. So up on the screen now, I'm starting at the GameSense Info Center at Plainridge Park Casino. You may remember Mark and I approaching you about a year ago, and we were completely redesigning the space and really pushing the layout. In this go around and rolling out GameSense 2.0 brand standards, we really tried to activate it. So we incorporated a lot of the conversational elements, which you'll see in a lot of the other materials as well. So we have text bubbles written on the wall, and they will be incorporated in the brochures as well, which are going to be updated. And I know it's a bit difficult to see in the picture, but if you look up closely at the kiosk, which we are finding that a lot of players will use to check their budgets with Play My Way, we incorporated the text, "I've gambled my budget, now I'm leaving." And the response to that in the text bubble below is, "Good attitude, that's gambling like a winner." And you'll notice in all these messages that we drive either to the GameSense Info Center or to GameSenseMA.com, which is what Elaine just took you through. So next, I would like to show off the GameSense Info Center at MGM and where it stands today. I'm sure even from when this picture was taken, a lot of changes have been put into it. And a special thanks to everyone at MGM who we've been collaborating very closely with to get this up and running. So it's a very different look, as you can tell, and a lot of that has to do with tailoring it to fit the audience that we expect at MGM and making sure that it's streamlined with the space. We think it complements the floor beautifully and vice versa, and we're hoping that it gets a lot of traffic just based on the design alone. And also, Chairman Crosby, due to you pushing for this awesome location within the casino, so we are located in a high traffic entrance and 2 sort of offices down from the M Life desk, which we know is going to be very busy, especially the first few weeks of opening.
Have you finished, have you folks been at the finished facility now?
I've been down here almost once a week at this point, so I didn't get a chance to go today.
Okay, because somehow the colors in my memory, walking by it today, don't look like the colors like this green. So somebody ought to just make sure that somewhere we didn't slip a gear somewhere. But I don't know how that could happen, but just
well, I can't.
Make me feel better. Somebody go by and take a look.
Absolutely. I can say that there is a lot less green than what we see at PPC, and that is in streamlining the design.
Well, and I understand that, and I think, that was a negotiation and a legitimate, I'm totally fine with that, but at least particularly where the sign is, there's at least 2 GameSense signs, I think, and just make sure they're the right color.
It's the new color green, though.
But this is the new color that we're seeing on the screen.
Well, I think it's a little distorted on the screen. To me, that looks more like the old color than the new color.
Okay, well, anyway, just double check to make me feel good. Thank you.
You are watching RGB color. You're pretty to CMYK. It'll be darker.
Oh, okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, and finally, I just want to share some of the marketing that we rolled out at Plainridge Park Casino. Similarly, you're going to see some of these elements incorporated on the MGM floor as well. So starting at the left, we have a digital sign, and I'm sorry, I can't read it from this far away. But it's something to the effect of, for your best shot on the slot machine, visit the GameSense Info Center to learn more about the games. In the center, we have signage that'll be on the ATMs, and I believe it says, "Put your Benjamins on a budget," and we had a little Benjamin Franklin custom designed by our marketing team. And on the right, we have a drink coaster, and I know a huge shipment just went over to Plainridge Park Casino, so you'll be able to find those in the 2 bars on site. Not pictured here are tabletop flip books, which are going to be in the food court area. So we really tried to take advantage of all the opportunities on the floor.
What was that? Tabletop?
Like a flip book. So it'll have myths and facts on it. Very similar to the website, just a hard copy of that.
It'll just be sitting on tables in the South End, whatever it's called, eatery market.
In the food
They'll
court
just flip
and at
through?
Fluties. Yeah.
Yes.
Just more unique ways to engage patrons.
Great.
Thanks. I'm switching it over to Elaine, who's going to take you even further outside the casino now.
So just very briefly, I'm just going to give a high-level review of the advertising campaign that will kick off on August 20th. So we worked very closely with MGM on in-casino signage. They've been a great partner to us on that. What we are doing to even further extend the reach and introduce the brand to Western Mass is MGC will be handling external casino signage. We're very excited to say that we're going to be doing an omni-channel advertising campaign, like we said, that kicks off several days prior to opening. It will include traditional ad buying, transit, and a heavy mobile presence. We'll be doing a significant focus on mobile strategy to ensure that we're reaching mobile-forward audience. It gives us a great opportunity to behavior target, geo-target, to really strategically hit the audience that we want to reach. Basically, KHJ designed a very strategic, we call it the path to play approach, meaning that we'll be doing an ad buy that reaches individuals that are online looking up MGM Springfield, intending to go and visit the casino, when they get to the casino, and when they leave the casino. It's a very targeted and smart ad buy.
Did we coordinate the ad buy, Mark, with the at-risk groups that our research has defined?
No, we weren't able to get the ad buy to be that specific.
But we did provide KHJ with a significant amount of the research, and they spent a lot of time very closely defining the best approach. So
yeah, I don't see why we couldn't, with the kind of targeted social media and so forth that you're using, I don't know why you couldn't target.
It's targeting persons who go to the casino, so in terms of geofencing around the casino and targeting individuals who have been to the casino. To that degree, it is targeting patrons of MGM.
You know why I'm asking the question?
I absolutely do.
So think about that.
Okay.
And so the ad buy will go from August 20th until about mid-December is this first phase. It also includes transit advertising on PVTA, which we're really excited about. So it'll essentially function as a mobile billboard around Springfield, specifically around the routes that go around the casino, which will be great. Both exterior, so like we said, a mobile billboard, and then interior car cards. And then lastly, we also have a digital ad buy on Mass Live. As you know, Mass Live is owned by the Springfield Republican. It reaches approximately 4 million residents across Mass. Gives us a great opportunity to geo and behavioral target to reach gamblers. And we're very excited about, like I said, an omni-channel approach. We think it's going to be very impactful, and naturally we'll be closely studying the metrics.
Will the content be those little 30-second, will that be the chip clips? Or what will the content in this advertising be?
It'll be a combination of display ads, videos. We're in the process of finalizing some of those right now, but it'll be all along.
The same kind of stuff that you showed us from the beginning, right? Okay. Great. Incidentally, GameSense matches Alex's tie, just for the record. That's the green, yeah. Right.
We actually provided that to him today. I'm kidding.
Ryan's shirt.
Right.
And just to call out to MGM, who proactively several months ago or at the beginning of the year adopted GameSense throughout its properties in North America. And in building the GameSense brand in Massachusetts and evolving the GameSense brand here, they've been a great partner to work with.
Can you explain, Mark, how apparently the M-Life, in other MGM casinos, the M-Life representatives will be also what we refer to as GameSense advisors. in Massachusetts, we're going to have the M-Life people doing the M-Life GameSense stuff, whatever that is, and we're going to have our own GameSense advisors. Is there a split of responsibility, or is there coordination, or can you explain how that works?
Yeah, so in coordinating with MGM and deciding how to implement GameSense at MGM Springfield, you're right. In MGM's other properties, they have M-Life staff that function as GameSense advisors. In Massachusetts, we have GameSense advisors at a GameSense Info Center. It was decided that we would adopt the Massachusetts model that utilizes the GameSense advisors that are staff members of the Massachusetts Council on Compulsive Gambling. That are there 16 hours a day, 7 days a week. The M-Life staff still receive intensive training on GameSense, but will also refer those patrons to the GameSense Info Center with our GameSense advisors when they want more information.
And if I may, I see this as a supercharged GameSense model, really, in MGM because of all the training and awareness that employees are going to have, because that's what they're doing corporate-wide. One of the recent findings from the GameSense evaluation is that we need to do a little bit better job in educating employees of PPC, for example, or other customers in terms of awareness. And my hope is that with the MGM's commitment, in addition to our model of the GameSense Info Center, we might reach better metrics in terms of awareness and an understanding of the brand.
Absolutely. Every MGM employee is receiving a module of GameSense training. We have a cohort of GameSense advisors that are basically across the street right now and are in week 3 of a four-plus week training to be GameSense advisors. It's pretty phenomenal.
Other questions or comments?
I think it's exciting. It looks excellent. I saw the space today. It really looked very nice and welcoming, your word, Mark. So I just think it sounds like it's really going to resonate and people will get the word.
Yeah. And there's ways to track traffic to the website, right? Absolutely. I'm really curious. It looks really nice and and fresh.
And green. Sir.
I just want to make sure we're done with this issue.
Are we done?
Yeah, just lastly, I just want to commend my colleagues, Mark, Teresa, and Mike, for a tremendous amount of work that it took to get this done and get it done by today. And also the team at KHJ, very high quality product, just extremely committed, and it was a great team effort, and I just would be remiss not to say that.
And our communications director did a pretty good job, too.
Very cost effective.
Yeah, thanks to all of you.
Yeah.
So we have to go on the website and watch Chip, right?
Yeah.
All right. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Racing is fixed.
Great.
The governor has signed the extension. I have sent an email to our licensees reauthorizing operation.
Great.
Great.
Congratulations, everybody.
So that, so we can check that item off the agenda.
Great. Let's take a brief break while you folks set up, and we'll see you in a few minutes. All right, we are reconvening public meeting 249 at about 2 o'clock on August 2nd, and we are going to the heart of our meeting today, Executive Director Bedrosian.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
Before I begin my introductory comments, I'd like to turn this over to Mike Mathis, President of MGM Springfield. I think he has his own comments.
Thank you, Commissioners. Before I make a couple of comments, I want to introduce our executive team. You've seen photos of them. I think you've met a couple of them from time to time, but officially want to introduce them today. People ask me all the time out on the road, out in the street, Mike, how do you do it all? That's an amazing undertaking you've taken on. And I tell them, I don't. I've got a wonderful team that's doing the work, and they've got 3,000 men and women who are on board or will be on board to bring this facility to life. So I asked them just to take a moment out of their very busy days, and if each of you would stand up when I acknowledge you, I'd appreciate it. Alex Dixon, our general manager.
We know Alex.
Where's Alex? Alex came late to the party, but incredibly indispensable young man. He's got a real flair for the business. He comes from a casino family, and incredibly fortunate to have him as a partner at the helm. So thank you, Alex. Courtney Wenletter, our shy VP CFO, Courtney. She'll be incredibly relieved not to give you any more budget updates on pre-opening. But Courtney's been great. She's a seasoned professional, comes most recently from our New York operation, moved out here with her young family. So thank you, Courtney, for being part of the team. Seth Stratton, to my right, he's got the toughest job in the building because his client is a former lawyer. So Seth's been great, and obviously you've seen a lot of them, and has allowed us to get to where we are from a regulatory process, state-wise and city-wise. Mary Kate Murrin, our VP of HR. Mary Kate took on the incredible task of satisfying many commitments which I personally made, which were incredibly unreasonable and ambitious, and she's done it with a lot of grace and a ton of heart, as you saw from the last meeting. Robert Westerfield, VP of Table Games. Affectionately known as Westy, he's forgotten more about table games than I'll ever learn in my career, and he's been an incredible attribute to the team, not only in his discipline, but as a professional that really loves the business and has coached a lot of us younger folks, myself included. So great to have Westy on the team. Lynn Seegers, VP of Slots. You'll be hearing from Lynn shortly. She's got one of the largest departments in the building and is responsible for most of the revenue, so which both you all and us are incredibly invested in. So really fortunate to have Lynn on the team as well. Sarah Moore, VP of Brand Marketing. She's our style police. She's responsible for This Is a First campaign, which, Sarah, to your credit, is the first time in the history of my relationship with my two boys that they've acknowledged anything I do is cool. So incredibly strong campaign, and is really, for those of you that took photos, I'm looking at you, Chairman Crosby, earlier, if you leak them out, she's going to be all over you. So she's a steward of the brand, and really excited to have her from Las Vegas to help us out. Anthony Carazzola, VP of F&B. Anthony I met when I was down in Tunica. You might remember I was down there for about 4 or 5 months. Filling in as an interim general manager in that facility down in Mississippi. I met Anthony. He's got family in upstate New York, and was so impressed with what he did that we talked about coming up to Springfield. So it was really great to see some of the people I met on my own journey come back, and he runs a really incredible operation. Anika Gaskins, VP of National Marketing. Anika comes from some of our competitors, and we've always said that we can learn a lot from the folks in the business that do some things different than us, and she provides a really great perspective and is a strong member of our casino marketing team. Jason Rosewell, this is a personal recruit of mine. Jason Rosewell is in the same position I am. He's our VP of Facilities. So, when I started this process, I was the development guy, entered into a bunch of different agreements and commitments with the Commonwealth and with the city, thinking that I would hand it off to the eventual operator. I was that guy that handed off to, so I've got no one else to blame but myself. And the same stands for Jason Rosewell. He's Brian Packer's #2 on construction. I convinced him to come over to the operations side. So if something's broken, it's because he built it. So good luck, Jason. That's right, he'll fix it. Jason Rucker, our Executive Director of Security. Jason's one of those really unique individuals. He's as comfortable doing a PowerPoint as he is working with Springfield Police Department and K-9, our K-9 division. Really great asset. He's going to help us keep us safe, which, as you know, is paramount in our facility. So very lucky to have Jason on board. Greg Skoronsky, our Executive Director of Hotel Ops. Greg manages many divisions. He comes from MGM Grand. He was basically the number 2 at MGM Grand. So he went from operating the largest hotel, one of the largest hotels in the world, to the smallest hotel in our portfolio. And Greg, how difficult is this job? How difficult is 250 rooms? We've got 16 suites, and we've got a bunch of folks visiting us on the 23rd, half of whom think they should be in a suite. So his job to figure that out. Talia Sparrow, our Executive Director of Entertainment. Talia, she's responsible for all the great programming that we're going to have in the facility, Stevie Wonder included. So really great to have Talia on board, and I've seen some of the programming that she's got planned for the facility. As you know, entertainment is probably the linchpin of our success. So she's got a very important job. David Powell, our Director of IT. David, are you in the room? Great. So so much of our operation is IT-based, as you know. So David came from Borgata, which was incredibly successful, and joined our team. We're really lucky to have him. And closing, Brian Jordan, our Director of Surveillance. Brian's great. He's made it clear there's a reason he's in surveillance. He doesn't necessarily need me to check in on him every day. But he's been a great member of the team and brings a lot of experience. He was most recently at our Monte Carlo Park Resort in Las Vegas. I think I got everybody. Is Monique here? Nope. Is Monique here? Nope. Okay. So a couple of other comments, if I can, before I hand it off to Brian Packer. You know, for me, this is a bit of a milestone. I think this is the last time we as a team will be before you as a licensee applicant. The next time we're before you will be a licensee operator. And I just want to reflect on a little bit of the journey. Me personally, I've spent a third of my professional career with you all. With Springfield and with this commission, and I thank you all. It's an incredible journey. Certainly going to be a highlight of my career and something that we all can be proud of, but I couldn't be more fortunate to have a commission who was supportive of the ambition and the vision that we had here today, and of the commitment that we've all made. There are many times that we asked you to give us the benefit of the doubt, and you did, and I think we made you proud. I think you walked the facility today and have a sense of what we've accomplished. And I want to highlight it with an individual. I'm going to call her out because I brought her out in front of our new hire the other day. Is Heidi here? Heidi, stand up. Remain standing if you would, Heidi. So Heidi, let me tell you about Heidi Abreu. Heidi I met in 2013 in our Main Street campaign offices. She's from the Dominican Republic, emigrated to the United States, and worked her way up to Springfield, which has got a great Dominican Republic group of support and extended family. I met her in 2013 in the campaign office. She was one of our canvassers who, with another group of people, would knock on doors for us, totally volunteer time, and try to convince them with the upcoming vote about the attributes of the MGM project, and what it would do for the community, particularly the Hispanic community, all the jobs and the benefits. So I recognized her because she was in the office all the time. And then I was there on a Monday. And I remember getting a report of how we were doing for the weekend, and they showed me a picture of Heidi with a clipboard from the day before. And I said to my team, I said, I didn't realize we did any canvassing yesterday, meaning Sunday. I thought we gave the folks a day off. What they told me was it wasn't enough for Heidi. She had run out of people to convince to vote for Springfield. She went to go get people registered to vote. She was in the shopping centers and the malls and the different office buildings. So Heidi's one of the many unsung heroes when we open our doors. But none of us, yourselves included, would be here if it weren't for the efforts of a group of people from Springfield that convinced the community that this was a venture worth pursuing and trusting us. Happy to report that on Monday, Heidi will be joining our team as a guest service representative on our slot floor. So she becomes a part of the MGM family and brings many of her friends with her as part of our team. The one caveat is that Paul Connolly needs to clear her for a temp license. So if Paul, you could clear that list for us so we can get a Monday start. But thank you all. This has really been a special experience for me and the team, and I want to thank you for all your support along the way. And with that, I want to hand it off to Brian Packer.
Before you do, I think we all, if the experience we've had, we accept your judgment about your team. I mean, the feedback that we've gotten, I always say this, this is not all about a, pat everybody on the back session all the time. We're your regulators and we have a job to do, but we know quality work and quality people and quality integrity when we see it. And I think we would all agree our experience with your people has been really a professional pleasure. We also, however, on this commission know that this doesn't happen without really, really excellent leadership. And we've watched, we've held our breath, we had a lot of reservations, we had concerns, and we had great hopes. And you have been an excellent leader. You've built a great team. You're a terrific ambassador for the business. You have asked us to stretch sometimes, and we've made a calculated judgment that this is a man of integrity and goodwill, and have said the benefit of the doubt. And you have never let us down. And from what we've seen so far, I don't think you're going to do it in next August 24th either. So I would say on behalf of all the commissioners, thanks to you and to all of your team, and do break a leg.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. So, commissioners, I'd like to give you a broad outline of this presentation before I turn it over to my directors. This presentation is the path to an operations certificate for our licensee. And as you know, it is the operations certificate which allows our licensee to commence operations. There are statutory, regulatory, and license requirements that are necessary for an operations certificate. There are literally thousands of requirements that must be met for MGM to get an operations certificate. Today's presentation is designed to show you that most of the commitments have been materially met, but there are important commitments such as testing gaming operations that will still need to be completed. At the end of this presentation, we will ask you to designate Commissioner Stebbins with the authority, once gaming conditions are met, to issue a temporary operation certificate which will be valid until a permanent operation certificate is ratified in front of the full commission. To get to this point today took a lot of hard work and cooperation. Staff started monthly, then I forget if it's biweekly or bi-monthly, but whatever that is, every 2 weeks, meetings with MGM Springfield staff about a year ago. The City of Springfield has been very collaborative, and many state agencies have also assisted in this process. Finally, our staff and directors have worked tirelessly to get us to this point, whether monitoring construction commitments, upgrading our technology, licensing thousands of people in a short period of time, testing slot machines, or getting regs adopted. Our folks really stepped up. I want to thank them all for the work so far, but we still have a lot of work ahead of us in August. With that, I will turn it over to our Master of Ceremonies, Mr. Ziemba.
Thank you, Executive Director. A lot of new titles. Commissioners, MGL Chapter 23K, Section 10, and the Commission's regulations 205 CMR 135 and 205 CMR 151 state that the Commission may not make a determination that a Category 1 gaming establishment is open for business until the Commission has made a number of determinations. The report in your packet details the requirements of the regulations. The report also includes appendices providing further information about specific requirements. Notably, MGM Springfield has provided an update to its July 16, 2018 submission regarding compliance with the conditions of its license. As we go through the compliance issues, by the time we reach the section on MGL Chapter 23K, you'll see that the requirements of that section have already been dealt with through the two regulations. So it gets easier as we go along. Construction Oversight Manager Joe Delaney will provide details of compliance with construction requirements and further information regarding compliance with 205 CMR 135. The determinations he will discuss cover the completion of the gaming area and other ancillary entertainment and non-gaming amenities, completion of all infrastructure improvements, compliance with the terms of the license, 23K, Commission regulations, host and surrounding community agreements, impacted live entertainment venue agreements, certificates of occupancy, and approvals. We will also walk you through 205 CMR 151. Before Joe gets into the details, I would like to provide general context of the determinations that the Commission will consider today. In order to evaluate compliance with the construction-related requirements included in the license, in MGM's Section 61 findings, in the host and surrounding community agreements, and the RFA2 application, MGM Springfield and Commission staff have engaged in a very comprehensive review process described in a memo in your packet entitled Commitment Closeout Update, which Joe will discuss. In addition to this comprehensive review process, MGM Springfield has provided significant support and evidence that it has met the conditions under its license. They submitted, as I mentioned, a detailed memorandum for the July 19th meeting of the Commission and a supplement today that appears in your packets. The Commission's extensive reviews of the project over the last 4 years, and especially over the last 6 months, provide additional evidence that MGM Springfield is in material compliance with the conditions. During that time, MGM Springfield has appeared before the Commission 13 times to present its detailed quarterly reports. In addition to the quarterly reports and numerous other Commission meetings involving specific issues, the project has also been reviewed at approximately 35 Access and Opportunity Committee meetings. By the proposed opening date, the Commission and Commission staff will have approved the final design of the project, a detailed schedule for the project, a determination that the project has completed its final stage of construction, the floor plan, the internal controls, the emergency and critical incident response plan, the credit procedures, the gaming beverage license, approval of the slots and slot operations, the inspection following the test days, the approval and updating of the project Section 61 findings, a determination that the total infrastructure is complete, the regional tourism and marketing plan, the workforce development plan, the diversity and affirmative marketing plan, the procurement, diversity, and local business plan, the responsible gaming framework, and voluntary self-exclusion policy. That's quite a mouthful, but it goes to speak to how much work has gone into determining what we need to determine today. Many of these approvals involve the staff review of the application requirements, the RFA2 requirements that relate to the topic areas of the Commission approvals. Further, the Commission has monitored reviews by other entities, notably by the City of Springfield Administration, the City of Springfield City Council and its Casino Oversight Committee, and the Massachusetts Policy Act Office, and the Massachusetts Department of Transportation. Taken together, there is substantial evidence that MGM Springfield has materially complied with the terms of its license. Further, we note that any determination that MGM Springfield is in material compliance for the purposes of its operations certificate reflects only a small portion of its compliance. Consistent with prior practice, the Commission will continue to review MGM Springfield's progress in meeting all such goals and standards, both in the short term and during the term of the license. Many of the requirements the Commission will review today are ongoing requirements that will continue into the operations period. Some conditions will only be able to be met after the operation period begins. And with that as a general background, I will turn to Joe, and Joe is joined by Brian and Seth as we begin our next stage of this review.
Thanks, John. Good afternoon, Commissioners. What I was going to do here is just going through the memo that we prepared for your packets, just going through each individual item briefly. So the first item, item A, is the opening requirements pursuant to 205 CMR 135. Under 135, there are a number of specific requirements that must be completed before opening. These include approving a project schedule, provision of affirmative action and marketing programs, submission of quarterly reports, agreements with labor unions, and so on. As outlined in your packet, MGM is in compliance with each of these 8 specific requirements. The second item, item B, is a determination of completion of the gaming area and other ancillary amenities. We are required to determine that the gaming area and other amenities have been constructed and are built of superior quality. Our review of this focused on the physical construction of the amenities. Bruce Band in his presentation will talk more about the readiness of the gaming floor, high limit area, poker room, with respect to the slot machines, table games, surveillance, and so on. Executive Director Bedrosian, John Ziemba, and I performed this determination on July 31st. in those areas of the project that are currently operating under the temporary certificate of occupancy, which these include the hotel, the podium, the restaurants, convention spaces, back-of-house spaces, roof decks, and so on. In our estimation, these areas certainly meet the standard of superior quality. Additional determinations will be made later on those areas not included under the temporary certificate of occupancy, such as the cinema, Topgolf, Indian, the salon, the armory, and the church. We expect the construction in all these areas to be complete before the project opens. And with that, I'll just turn it over to Mr. Bedrosian to give his impressions of the inspection that we conducted on Tuesday.
So I'd like to preface my comments. Any platitudes I'm about to say concerning the quality of MGM Springfield property does not reflect a predilection in our ongoing regulatory responsibilities. So you gentlemen understand that. Having said that, using my life as a previous prosecutor, I find beyond a reasonable doubt that Blue Tarp Development, doing business as MGM Springfield, has and is building a property of superior quality. The men and women who designed it, who build it, who are decorating it should be really proud. I don't want to reveal a lot of surprises for the guests who will get to see it later this month, but the hotel rooms, the restaurants, the retail and outdoor space, the gaming floor are of superior quality, and the homage that they pay to Springfield and the surrounding areas is truly unique. You got the beginning part, though, right?
Okay, so item C, the determination of completion of all infrastructure improvements. We are required to determine that all on- and off-site infrastructure improvements have been completed. All of the off-site infrastructure work has been is completed with the exception of the variable message boards that are part of the intelligent transportation system. We have received approval letters from MassDOT, City of Springfield, and the Springfield Water and Sewer Commission regarding these off-site improvements, which have been included in your packets. The intelligent transportation system work is expected to be complete on or about August 10th. MassDOT has assured us that they will be available to complete their inspections and issue the necessary approvals before the project opens. We would like to thank Chris Signoli and Matt Sokop from the City of Springfield, and Peter Kavicki and Richard Massey and their staff from MassDOT Region 2 for coordinating all the necessary inspections and preparing their approvals for this meeting. Their assistance was greatly appreciated. There is still some on-site infrastructure work that needs to be completed, which includes hardscape on the plaza areas, final paving on MGM Way and Howard Street, and the completion of Da Vinci Park. Again, we expect all of this work to be completed before project opening, but we'll continue our inspections as we go along until such time. Item D is the opportunity to inspect and determine compliance. As John indicated earlier, we perform numerous compliance-related activities, including weekly and monthly meetings with MGM staff, weekly site walks, schedule reviews, and many other oversight functions. But one of the main things that we used to determine compliance was the commitment tracking system developed by MGM. In fact, this system drove a lot of the work that we've recently completed, like the in-depth review that we did a couple of months ago, the design approval, and the Section 61 revisions. And I would like to just spend a couple of minutes here to describe this system and how it was utilized. Once the MGM project received all of its approvals, there were 25 documents that had specific requirements that MGM had to follow. These included everything from the RFA2 and the gaming license to the host and surrounding community agreements, MEPA documents, and so on. Brian Packer and his team reviewed all of these documents, and when broken down into their individual components, resulted in over 5,700 commitments, of which approximately 3,400 need to be completed before opening. In order to effectively track these, Brian and his team developed a system by which each commitment was issued a unique identifier and was tracked using various spreadsheets and document management software. Now, each one of these commitments was assigned to a team member who prepared what MGM is calling a white paper, which identifies which commitment the paper is addressing, what documentation is being provided, and how it closes out that item. Now, over the last 6 months or so, as these white papers were completed, Brian would forward us lengthy lists of those completed items. I would then go through each white paper and determine whether or not the paper adequately addressed the commitment, and then John Ziemba would perform a spot check on the work that I was doing. So to date, I have looked at all of the just over 3,400 commitments, and I have not found any issues that would materially impact the project opening. With that said, I've performed detailed reviews of the white papers associated with about 2,800 of these items. We just received another chunk of a little over 400 items from MGM, which leaves us, I think the number was 191 items left to close after that. So with a few weeks left to opening, we think that should be adequate time to complete that work. During this review, we did question or request additional information on a number of these commitments, about 200 in total, and MGM has largely addressed those at this point. Now, given the volume of commitments to review, the final completion of some of these items may not happen until the days and weeks after project opening. For example, many of the off-site infrastructure improvements require as-built drawings to finally close out the commitment. This work won't necessarily be complete until sometime after the opening, but the improvement itself will be operational. With all that said, I really want to commend Brian Packer and his team for the development of this system. It's a really robust system that provides very detailed information on each commitment and could very well prove to be a model for other projects. In addition, the attention to detail that MGM paid certainly made my work easier. Item E, compliance with the gaming license and RFA 2. John addressed these items in his opening remarks, so I don't need to go over those again. Item F, compliance with the host community agreement. Enclosed in your packet is a letter from the City of Springfield regarding MGM's compliance with the host community agreement. Of course, the city has been actively involved in the design, review, permitting, and construction of the project from its inception, and the HCA has been amended 4 times to reflect some of the changes that have happened since the project started. As we have discussed at several previous commission meetings, certain elements of the project will not be complete at opening. These include the construction of the corner retail at Union and Main Street, the off-site housing, and the final build-out of a couple of retail spaces. The city is fully aware of these and has concurred with them. Compliance with the surrounding community agreements. This presentation only discusses compliance with the pre-opening requirements of the surrounding community agreements, which are generally the preparation of baseline traffic studies and reimbursements to the towns for consulting and legal fees that occurred during the permitting of the project. In your packet is a letter from MGM Springfield stating that they are in material compliance with the surrounding community agreements and a chart showing the compliance with the pre-opening conditions of the surrounding community agreements. As part of our commitment review, we've obtained copies of all the approved baseline studies as well as copies of the checks sent to the community, so we've verified that that work has been completed. Compliance with impacted live entertainment venues. There are technically no impacted live entertainment venues for the project, although MGM voluntarily entered into agreements with several entities near the property, and I believe Jill Griffin will discuss this a little bit further in her presentation. Temporary certificates of occupancy and approvals. To date, the project has received 4 temporary certificates of occupancy, one for the parking garage, one for 95 State Street, one for the hotel and podium, and one for the daycare center. The podium TCO excluded several of the several uses that have not yet been completed, which are mostly in the entertainment block and plaza area. Again, we expect all of these excluded areas will receive TCOs before the project opens. Enclosed in your packet is a schedule of the expected dates of final inspections, which run between August 7th and 20th. Of course, if there are any delays in the inspections or operations staff have limited access to these spaces, the exact opening time could possibly be affected. The overall project is expected to open under a temporary certificate of occupancy, which is typical for projects of this scale. The final certificate of occupancy will be issued once all of the punch list items are done and the city does a final inspection, which could be several weeks after the opening. Elevator certificates, there are 20 elevators and 3 escalators that need permits on the project, and we are required to compile all of those before the opening. As of July 30th, 14 elevators and all 3 escalators have received their final state inspections. We've included a schedule of the other inspections in your packet, and in fact, a couple of inspections were called in this week, and so we fully expect that those will be done. Other permits, this project requires literally hundreds of permits for construction and occupancy. We've included charts showing all of the construction and operating permits necessary and the status of those permits. Again, we expect that the project will have all of its permits by opening, but we do expect that these will be pushing right up until the opening day on some of the permits. The opening requirements pursuant to 205 CMR 151, many of the things I just talked about are also rolled up into Section 151, so I won't need to discuss those again. And most of the other items under 151 are included in Bruce Band's presentation, which includes internal controls, emergency response plan, approval of the gaming area floor plans, and the evaluation and test period. And one additional item regarding a current list of all gaming employees will be included in Jill Griffin's presentation. And then finally, the opening requirements pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 23, Section 10. Each of these specific requirements roll up into either 151 or 135, so we have already addressed those. And I guess with that, we will, keep following up on those few missing items that we have and keep you apprised of the status right up until opening day. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks. Are you orchestrating, John, from one to another? Yeah.
Yep. So we have Bill Griffin.
Good afternoon, Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
In preparation for the opening of Blue Tarps Redevelopment LLC, Mass Gaming Commission staff has been working diligently to ensure compliance with our regulations. And I think you heard from Joe some of the many documents. I'll review some of the documents. 205 CMR 135.06, the host community agreements, MGM Springfield's diversity and affirmative marketing program, the monthly Access and Opportunity Committee workforce and contractor reports, MGM documentation submitted for the MGC diversity audit against also regulations and license conditions. And we reviewed for compliance with the information included in the RFA2 application filed by the licensee and the evaluation reports prepared by the Commission as part of the Commission's evaluation process. One thing I do want to, we could flip, I don't have the remote, but if we could flip to the employee, tremendous results. MGM reported over 4,700 unique union construction workers on the project. They exceeded, all diversity goals for workforce, for minority individuals, women, and veterans set out in the program during the construction of the gaming establishment.
It's moving on.
Oh, it's moving it.
Who's managing that?
Well, no,
we're not touching it. It's just
Yeah, get your hands off that.
all right, ignore the first slide of this deck.
It's over here.
Additionally, the total unique workers on the site was over 4,300. Thank you so much. MGM Springfield implemented and exceeded all diversity goals for contractors and suppliers set out in their program for minority business enterprises, women business enterprises, and veteran business enterprises during the design and construction of the gaming establishment. The commission created the Access and Opportunity Committee. I'm just going to find the right slide for you guys. Charged to monitor efforts of our gaming licensees to achieve diversity in the construction workforce and supplier base. MGM attended 35 monthly public meetings since 2015, where they reported on their status in meeting the project diversity goals. MGM Springfield also included the quarterly diversity goal updates as part of the larger quarterly report to the Commission. On March 29th of 2017 and May 23rd, MGC staff initiated a compliance review process with MGM Springfield to conduct a review of the systems for the collection, management, and dissemination of the data in support of the diversity goals established for the project, as reported to MGC's Access and Opportunity Committee meeting. At the time of the compliance review and audit, MGM Springfield was meeting and in most cases exceeding their identified goals for both spending with diverse-owned businesses and the diverse workforce initiatives. MGC's review found that MGM and the general contractors have developed robust systems for the collection, tracking, management, and reporting of diversity data on the project. Additionally, there are sound practices in place for monitoring diversity goals and providing corrective action for the subcontractors on the MGM Springfield project. MGC was satisfied with the review of the closeout process for subcontractors on the MGM Springfield project, verifying the workforce data, diversity spend, and the complete accuracy of reporting during the entire scope of the subcontractors' work on the project. Each phase of MGC's audit demonstrated sound processes and accuracy in reporting. The licensee's records were complete, transparent, and accurate. Additionally, MGM has its own project audits performed monthly and quarterly by outside consulting firms. Due to the nature of the ongoing project reviews, the external review performed by MGC, we believe that MGM Springfield demonstrates exemplary compliance with the diversity requirements set forth in the license agreement. I'd like to actually thank Brian Packer, his team, Jason Rosewell, Seth Stratton, Shalon Brown, and others who worked with us throughout this project, came diligently to those public meetings. So thank you. Any questions for Brian or before we move on to operational work for myself?
No questions, just the numbers remain really strong and
really impressive.
just great job. You make it tough for anyone following you.
Thanks. I think one, when you look at some of these numbers, the projections are here that, at the end of the day, you're going to have approximately 150 companies with over $200 million spent with those companies. So significant dollars here when you look at what we've done and been able to accomplish. And Jill mentioned over, 4,700 individuals who took place in this project. So both on the workforce side and the dollars spent, very significant.
Right.
And if I may, I just want to emphasize something that you mentioned, Jill, which is the compliance review that we conducted, which had been a comment in a prior audit report that of our own state auditor. We're really now doing this work, and that's also significant.
Commissioners, if I could make one additional comment. You heard Mike talk about the operations team. I think Brian Packer's efforts all along on these diversity goals can't be understated. Not only did his team build a beautiful project, but without him every day pressing contractors emphasizing the importance of these goals for women, minorities, and veterans, we wouldn't have these numbers. And I think he really deserves a lot of credit for these stellar results.
Sure do. Agreed. Thank you.
Thanks. Great work.
So we'll move on to operational workforce. And I have a few introductory comments, Mary Kate, and then I'll turn it over to you for your presentation. Staff believes that MGM has met the general requirements laid out in the License Condition 15 and legislation to submit a workforce development plan on May 25th. It was also approved by the Commission. In those plans, they set out specific goals, diversity goals and hiring goals. They additionally submitted a plan as requested by the Commission to further outline their hiring strategy for Springfield residents, and that was approved by the Commission in October of 2017. They have implemented an aggressive recruitment strategy as part of those plans, and you'll hear more about that from Mary Kate later. MGM appears to be on target and in many cases exceeding their goals to hire Springfield residents, 35% Springfield residents, 50% minority individuals, and 2% veterans, and is very close to other goals. They have more up-to-date information that they're going to share with you today. And we understand that these are not final hiring numbers and are from a certain point in time, and that compliance is ongoing and occurs over the 15-year term of the gaming license. I will not steal Mary Kate Murren's thunder regarding the specific outcomes, but I will let her, I guess, present at this time, and then we'll talk later about the average hiring.
Good afternoon. Welcome back to Springfield. It's good to have you here. When we met on July 19th, I was pleased to give you a great update. I'm even happier to let you know on slide 2 for our commitment Springfield residents, we have a 0.8 increase to 36.6%. We have a 5.9% increase in the women participation to 46.7%. Our minority participation has increased 9.1% to 43.7%, and we do have a decrease in the veteran, 3% down to 5.9 from 8.9. As of these results, we have 1,916 individuals on the property. That's about 63%. You hear all the noise, Chairman and Commissioners. We have 750 people upstairs in new hire orientation. We have almost 300 people in the exhibit hall and others. And as of today, we have 2,267 employees onboarded. By this weekend, we will be up to 2,550. And then we'll continue to chase the 3,000 numbers. I'd like to thank my team, who is not here, who really makes it happen. And we continue, as Jill has stated, to chase our numbers of the 50% women, 50% minorities, and obviously to knock it out of the park with our residents of Springfield and our veterans.
Great, thank you, Mary Kate. So consistent with prior practice, the Commission will continue to review MGM Springfield's progress in meeting such goals and commitments, both in the short term and during the term of the license, in addition to any other actions the Commission may take. So additionally, I have included in your packet a comparison of projections made in the then applicant's 2013 RFA2 application against more recent jobs and average salary projections, both of which are, the details are covered by confidentiality agreements, so you have the average. In 2013, the RFA2 response 3-02-02, MGM provided estimated employee wages by job classification, subject to adjustments based on market conditions at the time of hiring. On July 16th, MGM submitted the MGM Springfield Compendium as of July 13th that demonstrated salary projections and benefits by position and functional area of operations that were more up to date. Since 2013, there have been changes to the MGM retail program, including the Armory Not Yet program to its full capacity, and some project employees to be hired by vendors, directly by vendors, rather than MGM Springfield. Additionally, the current hiring model includes 266 on-call employees, not in the original concept. The total headcount provided in the compendium is a reasonable comparison. It's 3,000 compared to the 3,254 in the RFA2. One thing to note is that the 3,000 figure in the compendium does not include the additional projected vendor employees at the gaming establishment. Approximately 100 to 150 vendor hires, and the MGM employee count at the Mass Mutual Center of 125. So MGM ultimately expects the combined employee headcount range to be between 3,225 and 3,275, consistent with their 2013 estimate of approximately 3,254 or thereabouts. So I'm going to leave it at that. And I'll just note that as Mary Kate Murren suggested, they're still in the progress of onboarding employees in anticipation of the opening of the project. We fully expect to monitor their hiring throughout the project. One point that I wanted to note is that typically with these projects, the first year there's significant turnover, sometimes upwards of 30%, and the Commission absolutely wants to ensure that that turnover doesn't negatively impact any of these goals. So.
Can I ask a question? I think in your memo there's a comparison. You spoke about the totals, and there's a comparison to the RFA2, the compendium versus the RFA2, and there's just a number that appears to have been either a typo or an error on the RFA2. If you take, do you see where I am in the memo, page 4?
The FTE.
Yeah, the FTE.
FTE versus full-time. Could you speak to that at all?
Sure. Mary Kate and I, in fact, that came up in recent discussions with Jill as we look back at the RFA2. And frankly, yes, there appears to be an error in the original RFA2 because we show 2546 as full-time headcount. You can't have a full-time equivalent less than your full-time headcount, right? It's full-time headcount plus part-time prorated based on the part-time, and I think we generally use a 50% for part-time and I think 20% for on-call in figuring out an FTE. So that FTE figure does appear artificially low in the RFA2. We tried to figure out, that was now 6 years ago. Frankly, we couldn't figure out where the spreadsheet was that was based on and how that number was calculated or where the error was. But I think so when you compare the 2365 FTE to the current 2581 FTE, it suggests that we're materially higher. But if you look at the total headcount, I think that that FTE number in the RFA2 would be closer to 2,900 if you did the math.
Yep.
And so we're actually, the FTE is lower present. But I don't really have a good explanation to how that that calculation was artificially low back then.
Sounds good. No, I mean, you are very close in all these other items, including the total headcount, which, you know, is good. It was just this reconciliation of the FTE that I wanted just to hear your thoughts on.
Commissioner, we did notice that ahead of time. I didn't think that we should correct or change.
Yeah.
So thanks for acknowledging. Any further? Okay.
Are you finished, Jill?
Just a quick question, and maybe it's just a guess, I suppose, but do you expect to get a lot of the on-call people on any kind of full-time or part-time position as a part of the rotation, or depending on how the customer base comes?
Right. So it depends on the individual themselves on call. That nature of on call is that's an individual who wants that type of position. Should we do, as Jill said, if we had some attrition from a full-time perspective, the part-timers have the first option to move to full-time, and the on-call will then be asked to move to part-time. So if they so choose, people will move up into those positions moving forward.
Thanks.
Is that it?
So that's it for workforce. I have some brief comments regarding the live entertainment venues.
Just before you do, just again, great numbers, and I see how hard you're working at this, and I think that makes a difference. We were here this morning, before 9 o'clock, before our tour, and there were, we just had to make way.
Flood of
folks
people.
coming in, but the folks looked very excited about their new opportunities, and it was kind of nice to see. So thank you for all your hard work.
Appreciate it.
The logistics are really remarkable. Just getting, all of those people onboarded and in orientation and hired really speak to quite an operation.
Thank you.
Mary Kate, could you flip to your slide with all the recruitment sessions, because I think that has been very, spectacular.
So within your appendix, I included just some of the things that have happened just the last quarter. There are, fix that, Brian.
Very sensitive.
It is a little sensitive. In the last quarter, there have been 45 events. That also includes all of our media with Job Talk Tuesdays, media and the newsletter. You see it on the screen now. This has just happened in the last 3 months, leading up to our large mass hiring events where we found the majority of our employees, especially from the city of Springfield. So really proud of Wanda Gisbert-Smith. She's our vice president. You met her before, and her entire team. It really is, as Mike Mathis liked to say, it takes a village to really get this up and running from a corporate perspective, our regional ops, and also our sister properties. So for those who are watching out there, many thanks. We couldn't get this done without you. Appreciate it.
Are there any concerns that certain areas where it's difficult to get enough folks on board, or you feel like you're there or almost there?
I think we're almost there, Commissioner. We did make arrangements to overhire, and based on some of the best practices and past practices at National Harbor and some of our other sister properties, we've accounted for that attrition. We set our goal. The industry standard right now is 30, and we are finding we're under that. So that is a real goal from us, and it really starts from the management and supervisors. You have great managers and supervisors who are going to be spending the majority of the time with the front line. That is what keeps them engaged, and so far, so good. We'll continue. We do have some attrition and some fallout, but we're working through that. So in about 90 days, when we get hopefully in steady state, we'll be able to come back to you and give you that fallout number.
Okay, thanks.
All set?
Great, thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Just briefly, impacted live entertainment venue agreements. As Joe mentioned, MGM has no ILOV agreements, but instead has executed cooperation agreements with existing live entertainment venues such as City Stage, Symphony Hall, and the Hanover Theater. MGM also has partnerships with the Majestic Theater in West Springfield and the Mass Mutual Center. So we're pleased about that. MGM has complied with the conditions of the license through the submission of the MGM Food and Beverage and Retail Plan, which was presented at the July 19th Public Commission meeting. At that time, they also presented the Regional Tourism and Marketing Plan, which was approved by the Commission at that meeting, complying with the License Condition 16. So with that, concludes my report.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mary Kate.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman and Commissioners, next up, we have the technology portion of the presentation. Katrina DeGroot-Gomes, Chief Information Officer for the Gaming Commission, and Scott Helwig, Gaming Technology Compliance Manager for the Commission, will join us.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. Before we begin, I would like to introduce the team that's here today, beginning with Scott Helwig, our Gaming Technical Compliance Manager for MGC, Ali Ganavati, the Gaming Developer Representative from GLI, Lynn Seegers, VP of Slot Operations for MGM, and David Powell, IT Director at MGM as well. So today we'll be presenting a summary of the diligent efforts to ensure compliance with our regulations in several technology areas pertaining to electronic gaming devices, slot management, and the internal controls network security plan. Gaming Laboratories International, GLI, performed a site inspection at MGM Springfield on June 20th for compliance with all pertinent sections of 205 CMR 143 and 144. The scope of the work was to perform inspections on the IGT Advantage and SBX systems, which are MGM's house systems, and to perform progressive testing of 200 EGDs, electronic gaming devices, out of 2,450. The remaining 2,250 were tested by the Investigations Enforcement Bureau Gaming Agents Division under the tutelage of GLI. All systems passed with one exception, the Bravo Poker system, which was not installed at the time of the inspection. However, GLI will return to conduct the system's verification once installation has been completed. Bravo Poker installations have been slated for August 10th. The Gaming Agents Division performed the remaining tests, and their results are that all 2,450 machines were received, passed inspection, and sealed prior to July 23rd. The following open items are changing by the hour due to the diligent efforts of the Gaming Agents Division, Gaming Technical Compliance, and MGM technicians. The legacy bonusing systems of 584 EGDs remain open, software and cash-out validation on every kiosks, signature and software verifications on shufflers and poker table shufflers, which are all slated to be completed this week. The Gaming Agent Divisions will review in further details during their presentation to the Commission. In accordance with 205 CMR 144, GLI and BMM certified each type of EGD at MGM Springfield. All slots and internal systems were verified by the MGC's Gaming Technical Compliance team, which includes financial, promotional crediting, manufacturer models, and software on the approved list. IGT's Network Operations team completed all cabling and fiber installations for all banks to ensure communications with the Commission's central management system and the 2,450 EGDs. In addition, the game software was verified via the Program Validation Disable Check, which allows for compliance against GLI and BMM's approved software to live games on the floor. Pursuant to 205 CMR 138.02 and further detailed in 143.12, the submitted network security plan was reviewed, which includes their corporate information security policy, access management standard, encryption and key management standard, information classification and handling standard, vulnerability management standard, network security standard, and data storage retention and disposal standard. All feedback provided to MGM was reviewed by the necessary teams, and the documents have been updated to reflect critical changes that would impact operation readiness. All other recommendations will be reviewed at their annual audit in the spring for inclusion as applicable. As with all policies, they're only effective as when placed into practice. So it is the intention of the MGC's Gaming Technical Compliance Team to conduct a security audit during the first year of operations. And in conclusion, it is our recommendation that Executive Bedrosian approves the network security plan as presented, and we'd love to give the commissioners an opportunity to ask any questions.
Anybody? I guess you answered them all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
That was easy.
Commissioners, next up, we have Responsible Gaming. We're joined by Mark Vanderlinden, Director of Research and Responsible Gaming for the Commission, and Karen McCrae, MGM Director of Compliance, MGM Springfield.
Good afternoon again.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I am joined by Karen McCrae, Director of Compliance with MGM Springfield.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
So we're bringing before you MGM Springfield's Responsible Gaming Readiness. This covers 3 specific areas: the Voluntary Self-Exclusion Program, the GameSense Info Center, and the MGM Springfield Responsible Gaming Plan. First, the voluntary self-exclusion policy and procedures. So voluntary self-exclusion, just by review, is a program that provides patrons one mean of addressing problem gambling behavior by prohibiting their entrance into the gaming area of a gaming establishment. We have reviewed MGM's policies and procedures on this, and they meet the requirements of the Voluntary Self-Exclusion Regulation 205 CMR 133. VSE designated agent training for MGM MLife staff is planned, and they will be prepared to do voluntary self-exclusions come opening day on August 24th. But please understand we have several layers of persons that are considered and have received the training as a designated agent. The front line, of course, being our GameSense advisors, followed by our gaming agents, the Gaming Commission gaming agents.
That's correct. So we would be the third in line to do the voluntary self-exclusion.
Great. Next is the GameSense Information Center. As you saw pictures earlier, the GameSense Information Center is the central hub at MGM Springfield for information and resources on responsible gaming, as well as at-risk and problem gambling. The GameSense Information Center is staffed 16 hours a day, 7 days per week by GameSense advisors. Those GameSense advisors are employees of the Mass Council on Compulsive Gambling, whom we have a contract to perform this function. The GameSense Information Center is quite honestly outstanding. In my opinion, exceeds the expectations of what we could have, should have expected. I think it's consistent with the high quality layout of MGM Springfield as a whole. I think that it highlights the fact that responsible gaming is an important and central issue, both for the Massachusetts Gaming Commission as well as for MGM Springfield.
Great.
Anything to add? We should take great pride in the work that was done for that.
It is a beautiful area.
It's really nice.
The final area that we'll cover is the MGM Responsible Gaming Program, which outlines policies, procedures, and programs to promote responsible gaming on site. Their responsible gaming program is consistent with the MGC's responsible gaming framework that covers 7 specific strategies, including a commitment to corporate social responsibility, supporting positive play, promoting public health and safety within the casino, ensuring responsible marketing, managing high-risk financial transactions, engaging the community, and a commitment to continuous improvement in reporting. And as I said, the responsible gaming program that was approved, that I approved earlier this week, covers each of those 7 strategies with specific tactics. It's, again, great work, and I think indicative of MGM's commitment to promoting responsible gaming. Anything to? Okay, great. Conclusion, the responsible gaming initiatives and policies that I just covered meet my expectation, and I think the overall, the Commission's high expectations and statutory and regulatory requirements.
Anybody?
Mark, can you just quickly comment? I know you and Mass Council have been doing some outreach already in advance of the opening on the VSC program. Can you talk about what you guys have been doing?
Yeah, so, several months ago, probably about a year ago, there was a commitment to make available the voluntary self-exclusion program prior to the opening of MGM Springfield, which of course makes sense that for individuals who are concerned with the opening, that it may cause problems for themselves. We wanted to make sure that voluntary self-exclusion was open and available in Western Massachusetts. I know that the Mass Council and the lead GameSense advisor assigned to MGM Springfield, Amy Gabriella, has done outreach through Springfield and to several agencies and Gamblers Anonymous groups, and has enrolled. I'm sorry, I don't have the specific numbers of how many have enrolled, but we have been successful in offering the program, and there have been enrollments into the voluntary self-exclusion program in advance of the opening of the casino.
And I did have a meeting with Amy and the advisors last week, and she did say that that's what their plans were for the time between now and then, is once they get trained up, is to go out in the community and education and see if they could get some more folks enrolled if necessary.
Great. I'd like to hear more about that, Mark, what those plans are. That'd be really interesting to hear.
Yeah.
Anything else?
No. Sounds like another successful partnership here.
Yep.
Yeah, I believe it is.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, next up, we have Gaming Regulatory Compliance. We'll be joined by Bruce Band, Assistant Director, Gaming Agents Division Chief, Commission. Burke Kane, Field Manager of Gaming Operations, Deputy Gaming Agency Division Chief. Karen McRae, Director of Compliance, MGM Springfield. Jason Rucker, Executive Director of Security, MGM Springfield.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, we're here today to discuss gaming regulatory compliance with MGM. We've been on site since January 15th of 2018 here, working hand in hand with the MGM staff on building design, security, submissions, and so on. In the beginning of April, about April 2nd, the first slot machines started to arrive. We worked with them with placement, checking the serial numbers, checking the machines to make sure that they pass all the inspections and the settings are correct. We did progressive testing where we made sure that all the parameters on progressive meters were set correctly for fairness to the public and to the team. As you can see, in my presentation here, I have several pages of regulations, 144 in all. Our gaming compliance manager reviewed all these like word for word with Karen McRae, and at this point, we are probably 99.9% done. There's just a few little tweaks that we have to do to, I believe, the security submission that we're still working on. They also presented to us what their gaming day in operation would be. They will be operating, of course, 24 hours a day. Their gaming day will start at 6 a.m. and end at 5:59 the next day.
Bruce, I have a question on progressives. Sure. So do all the progressives start at zero on the property?
No, there's something called a seed amount on a lot of progressives that might be like 10,000 if it's like a Wheel of Fortune game that could go up to millions. That's when, if somebody won it, what the machine would be reset at. So the casino, risks a little of their own money in that jackpot, but eventually they grow and grow and grow.
Great.
We've also reviewed the surveillance plan and all the camera locations, and at this point we are satisfied with what has been presented to us, that it provides adequate security and control over the gaming floor. We have an emergency and critical incident response plan, which we've reviewed, approved, and is on file with Springfield Police and Fire Department. We have credit procedures and the suspension of credit procedures been reviewed with Karen and her staff, and we have found them to be satisfactory and meet the requirements of the regulation. We've reviewed the liquor license compliance, and we're awaiting the final walkthrough, which we will do on the 15th when we will be much closer to having everything done. It will be a combination of us and ABCC. Slot operations plan and their operation is complete. It's completely satisfactory with what they're proposing to do to operate. And finally, the final play night inspection plan. Everything we've reviewed in the detail, it lets us look at just about every aspect of the game during the course of those 2 nights that we will be testing, and we are completely satisfied at this point what's been presented for the test nights.
How long are the test nights?
How long?
Yeah.
They're about 6 to 8 hours, depending in there. A lot of things go on behind the scene, so when the casino isn't operating, we're still in a test night because they have to count the funds and all that.
These are talking about the test nights that Mike talked about earlier, right?
Yes.
Like 16th and the
16th and the 20th.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, 16th and the 20th are the 2 test nights. I believe it's invited employee guests and
construction workers, like
yes.
you said. Yep.
Yes. Any questions for us? Anybody?
Again, lots
Again.
of work. I know. I know. I'm not usually this high a grader.
Yeah. We've worn you out. That's what it is.
No, again, and we saw it firsthand today with the tour of what exactly had to happen for each machine.
Yes.
I actually will miss being with you on test night because that was very interesting in
Yes.
Plain Ridge. But Commissioner Stebbins will have that opportunity.
This will be my 16th.
Yes.
And I tell you, this is one of the best groups that I've worked with from MGM to get this work done and with the cooperation that we needed to get this done.
Right.
I was going to echo that by commending Karen, Jason, Brian, all the VPs of the different departments. There's been a lot of give and take, asking questions. I know Karen's email account and all of the other VPs. We've been going back and forth trying to really iron out to get this stuff very precise for that we're all set.
Great.
Great. Thank you.
Thank
To
you.
everyone for
Great.
all the work.
Great.
Yep. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Thanks.
Commissioners, next up is employee and vendor licensing. We're joined by Paul Connolly, Director of Licensing for the Commission, and Mary Kate Murrin, Vice President, Human Resources, MGM Springfield.
Is this the last one?
And Bill Curtis, excuse me, wasn't on my list.
He wasn't on the list, but we wouldn't be here if it weren't for him. Commissioners, I have a voluminous presentation for you today composed of 1 slide, but that slide represents a tremendous amount of work, and it reflects the outcome of that work. So as of 9 a.m. on Monday, the 30th, we licensed or registered 1,739 employees. Notably, 1,420 of those were since June 1st. So, excuse me?
What?
1,400 of those 1,700 were licensed or registered since June 1st. So basically the past 2 months, which we expected. We talked, figuratively about the tsunami. that was the tsunami. But notably, to reflect back on how we got here, two things. One, kind of the top of that was taken off with the exemptions, about 800 plus people who were exempted. And also that wave that we expected was really kind of flattened out because MGM hired early and often. And I think really made, I don't think they did it for us, but it certainly helped us in terms of, she says they did, helped us in terms of working through all those applicants. To help get all of those individuals licensed or registered, we held 29 different fingerprinting events at the Employment Center over at the Colvest building right outside of the casino. So in those 29 events, 1,247 individuals were fingerprinted. So a lot of work. And I want to point that out because each one of those events was staffed by state police, working really hard to get people fingerprinted, which requires a tremendous amount of advance work, a tremendous amount of work with people the day of, and a lot of work follow-up. So it really, can't say enough about it. Also, want to take the opportunity, I can't say enough about my team, Mary Ann, Lisa, Bill, who worked tremendous hours. I mean, really, in some senses, almost 24/7 to get it all done, and really worked incredibly hard. Really proud of that. On the MGM side, I got to give them a lot of credit. We had prepared applicants, so the process was relatively easy because people came prepared with the right documents, the right attitude, and the right approach. Opened their lab to assist folks with LMS, which was a tremendous help. And most importantly, perhaps, was the consistent communication from team to team. I know, on your team, Keith and Dan, a tremendous job working to identify the pipeline of people that would be coming through so we could prepare not only for fingerprinting events, but to get everything lined up in terms of investigative needs, et cetera. So a lot of collaboration, planning, and scheduling really came together in order to get us to the point where we are now.
So tell us more about the licensing management process version 2.0 that you had in full operation here, and I'd also like to hear from MGM about that process if we could.
Sure. It depends on what she says. I may cut the mic. No, it worked really well, and I think I can speak to it from the perspective of having gone through the last opening without it. There's a number of fronts in which it helped, but the place where it has been most helpful is in terms of having that total information awareness. Where is everything, right? It sounds simple, but that can be when you're dealing with 1,700 licenses or registrations. If you count each iteration of an application as an individual application, multiply that number by 5 sometimes. It's a lot of paper, or in this case, virtual paper. A lot of individuals, a lot of timing. How do you schedule those fingerprinting events? Who's eligible? Who's ready at that point? And so that worked really well. Internally, from a business process standpoint, I think I can speak for licensing and IEB because I did hear it, fortunately. Everyone was happy. It really made things work quite well. It took away a lot of the manual processes that you don't need to do, you shouldn't need to do when you have a system, and just made them instantaneous. I joked at some points, you feel like George Jetson, where you're just sitting there pressing the buttons, moving things along. But sometimes that's what it takes. You're managing a flow, you're understanding, you're moving things from one point to the next, and you're doing it without having to generate a lot of paperwork and unnecessary, spend unnecessary time on it.
And I think, to Paul's point, the educated candidate was much better for us to look over their shoulder, answer their questions, because as soon as we could get them into IEB, the process was much quicker. We still have maybe 100 or two, majority are just registrants that we're continue to get that through this process. And Paul, I just got an email from you, so I think Heidi might have her license now. Who can start. So it's been wonderful, and I do want to call out again your staff, Paul and Bill. We were speaking almost daily the last month, really, even on weekends. Why was I supposed to say that? But it's been a great process, and the system has been good. The robust reporting has really helped us. We'll be able to download that and now upload it into our system to make sure we can meet the ICS, the internal controls that I have to with Paul, so it's working beautifully, and appreciate that.
And you were able to identify where the candidates were in the process?
That's correct.
Yeah, so both teams could do that, and it worked well.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Do we ever, were we able to live scan everyone, or did we ink and roll anyone?
We didn't ink and roll anyone.
Okay.
We live scanned, that 1,247 is all live scan.
Mm-hmm.
We did, however, you know, if you look at the gap between 1,247 and 1,739, those were folks who may have chosen the option of going to a local police department to get their, you know, to have their prints rolled, or really most often live scanned and then they get printed out. So there were candidates for whom, a number of candidates for whom we took paper fingerprints and we processed them, but you know, again, because they pretty much in the first instance went through live scan, they didn't pose a problem for us going through the second time. So that, again, you know, I really can't say enough about, you know, how many different elements of the team, from licensing, IEB, the troopers on the fingerprinting side. Scott Walker, I want to say his name because he really coordinated the majority, if not the entirety, of the fingerprinting and did a tremendous amount of work. But really, you know, I'd be here for 20 minutes saying all the names of people who pitched in, but it was it worked out pretty well.
And we look forward to having you on property too, to make it easier for our future candidates.
Yeah, actually, I know it's not, it would probably be better in a traditional commission meeting, but I do want to introduce a new employee, Tara DeMoe, who's here. She's actually a licensing technician who will be working in the licensing space in the casino itself. So she'll be working with candidates once we hit the steady state in terms of fingerprinting, LMS, technical assistance, any kind of licensing questions people have. She'll be there as a resource to all those applicants.
Oh, great. Excellent.
You know, I know this is not an easy question to answer, because it really depends on the employee or the type of license. But I really look forward to, when you catch your breath a little bit, to begin to understand the time frame that it takes on average or by category.
Sure.
So that we can begin to do some more planning on metrics. We have a bigger one in the horizon, and eventually a steady state of licensing that, you know,
Right.
I'll be interested in having us begin to think about.
I can kind of backdoor an answer to that question by explaining how we really approached this final push. What we did was Mary Kate would provide us with the list of candidates by onboarding date. And we would work, so for registrants it was a little bit simpler in the sense that once they get fingerprinted, they're registered and have status. There is obviously additional work on gaming employees to have an understanding, do a little bit of background before you could give them a temporary license. What we did was we worked from the priority list by start date, focused on those individuals, and tried to target them to get a temporary license, right? So that with an advance notice, and it stretched a little bit over time in a positive sense, giving people more time, with a goal of trying to get folks 2.5 weeks notice before their anticipated start date, because that would give them time, if they were currently working, to give notice, potentially move, but really work in the fact, because we understand these are people who are trying to start a new career, and we didn't want to, you know, drop something on them on the 11th hour. So it doesn't really answer your question, but we were able to, I think for the most part, hit those numbers so that we could get candidates to MGM in time for them to, you know, one, get them ready for training, and two, get the individuals in a position where they could start their new life.
And then it'll take several months to go from a temporary to a permanent license?
It shouldn't take that long. I mean, but what I would say is, obviously there's, you know, we've built a backlog of individuals, excuse me, for whom we have to go from a temp to a full. So it's numbers now. It'll take a little while, but I don't think it'll be that bad. And I think what we'll do is we'll probably be able to clear it out, you know, in a time where we'll also be working on, some of the initial turnover, but we'll be in good shape.
Great. Good to hear. Good report.
Great job.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you.
Right. Steve.
Just one
break.
Bye.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, Ed, we're going to take a 5-minute break. All right, we are reconvening public meeting 249, and next up on the agenda, Mr. Ziemba, I guess, is Derek Lennon.
I think we're missing Steno. Yeah.
Oh, Mr. Casteno. All right, we'll take a break until we get a stenographer here. Now we are reconvening public meeting 249, and we are to Chief Administrative and Financial Officer Derek Lennon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners.
Good afternoon.
I'm joined by Douglas O'Donnell, Revenue Manager for the MGC, and Courtney Wenletter, Vice President and CFO of MGM Springfield. And we're here to report to you the status of MGM Springfield's gross gaming revenue calculation and MGC's ability to derive accurate taxes. Our report will be entirely verbal, and I apologize for not being able to include in the public packet samples of the daily report or the backup documents that are used to generate the daily gross gaming revenue figures. Those documents are all covered by an NDA, and much of the tax package is truly proprietary to MGM. 205 CMR 140 lays out the process for calculating and billing gross gaming revenue from a Category 1 gaming facility. The tax rate is 25% of gross gaming revenue on both slots and table games and requires billing and remittance of taxes the day following the close of the gaming day. The regulation relies on the MGC's central monitoring system to provide a daily estimate of slot machine gross gaming revenue for tax calculation and requires a licensee to report on table game play winnings and promotional play to determine a gross gaming revenue for tax calculations of table games. The regulation then provides for a monthly true-up between daily estimates and actual receipts. In order to come forward to make a recommendation to you, the MGC Finance Office, in conjunction with the MGM Finance Office and our internal partners, began a regulatory review of systems, reports, and procedures beginning in April of 2017. I'll touch on the major portions of that review in the rest of my presentation. MGM uses a combination of staff at the Springfield facility and the Financial Shared Services Center, which you may hear me referred to as FSSC in the future, located in Las Vegas to calculate and reconcile the daily gross gaming revenue. In order to contemplate approving this structure, on April 3rd and 4th of 2017, MGM invited Director of the IEB, Karen Wells, and me out to their shared services facility to give us an overview and meet their team. While there, we received presentations on how the Springfield facility would utilize the Shared Services Center. It included accounts payable, accounts receivable, financial reporting, accounting and general ledger, and gaming audit and accounting. The IEB and MGC finance team then worked with the MGM team in October of 2017 to determine who from the FSSC should be licensed in Massachusetts. In February of 2018, the MGC began meetings via video conference calls with the FSC to review in detail the gaming audit and accounting processes and backup documentation. These calls happened on a biweekly basis and ran through the middle of June and covered the following topics: overview and audit procedures for slot and table game gross gaming revenue calculations, slot audit observation, cage and employee bank audit, compliance audit, which includes keys, tournaments, M-Life, table game audit, and then final gaming audit and accounting compliance. It was during these calls that we were able to interact with the managers and staff within the FSSC, and we were thoroughly impressed with the proprietary audit process MGM has developed that utilizes and integrates with the slot management system Advantage in their revenue sub-reporting systems. We were able to see actual documents from other jurisdictions that MGM operates in, and how the audit process works from the upload of the drop, to scanning of documents, to reconciliation of variances, to selective sample audit, to the daily journal entries into the revenue reporting system. While meeting with the FSSC were occurring, March 27th through the 30th, the MGC IT department scheduled 4 days of training with IGT to demonstrate the Advantage slot accounting and management system. This is a system MGM will utilize to monitor slot play, slot assets, progressives, ticketing, and meters. This was helpful to have an understanding of how the Advantage reports and audit process interrelate with the MGM gaming audit and reconciliation process. Finally, in June, July, and August of 2018, we've been having a minimum of biweekly on-site meetings with the MGM Springfield gaming and financial staff. These meetings have been focused primarily on a review of the standard daily tax package and supporting documentation. Through these meetings, the MGM Springfield team has developed a binder or electronic master file which serves as our roadmap for the daily gross gaming revenue calculations. We shared this with Commissioner Zuniga. It includes an example and explanation of the reports and audits that aggregate to the daily GGR sheet. Doug and his team have been coordinating with the gaming agents as well as the MGC IT and Central Monitoring System Networks Operations Center to review the manual testing of the slot machines and compare those results with our central monitoring system to ensure accurate gross gaming revenue calculation for slot play. We'll be receiving some dry runs of table game fill and credit slips as well as a simulated drop prior to test nights. And finally, because there's been no live play and there has not been an actual drop in reconciliation on the floor, I can only make a recommendation based on the controls I've been presented. The processes, procedures, reports, and trainings that have been explained and demonstrated to me do allow me to recommend the Commission approve the process worked out between MGM and MGC finance staff for daily gross gaming revenue calculation for tax reporting. If there are any substantial problems witnessed on the test nights of the 16th or the 20th, I'll come back to the Commission with a revised procedure prior to the issuance of a full-time operations certificate. I'd like to thank the work of the MGC Finance Office, the MGM team, our internal MGC partners of gaming agents, the Central Monitoring System Networks Operations Center, and the MGC IT team that have allowed me to come forward and recommend the Commission approve the gross gaming regulation calculation process the MGM team has submitted to the Finance Office for the usage during test nights. At this point, I'll turn it over to Courtney Wenletter to add to or clarify anything I may have misreported.
Thank you, Derek. Good afternoon. I just wanted to take a minute to acknowledge the financial shared services team in Las Vegas, as well as my team here in Springfield for developing this thorough audit and reporting process, and then thank Derek and his team for his partnership through the process as well.
Nothing to clarify or correct?
Nope, everything sounded
That's
right
impressive.
on.
Anybody?
Just so the record's clear, when you said there was no backup documentation in the public binder, that was, and you said NDA, can you just clarify for everyone who might not know what that means?
Non-disclosure agreement. So we would be getting the daily tax package, which would put our licensees at a competitive disadvantage because all of the jurisdictions around us only aggregate to a monthly process. We'd be sharing proprietary information that the MGM team has developed and spent a lot of money developing internally. So I can't share those and put them out in public. But if any commission would like to see them, like I said, I've shared them with Commissioner Zuniga. We have the documents, and moving forward, we'll be using them on a daily basis.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
You know, there's a lot of work that has gone on this with this group to this point. We have great familiarity now with the process on the central monitoring system. That's the good news, and it's all communicating, provided that it's all communicating properly. We are quite comfortable reconciling, anomalies that show from time to time in terms of, offsets and whatnot. The new process here really is all around tables. And that's something that I'm very interested in personally, just understanding better. But I have a general sense that the shared services group, the group here at our gaming agents, the IB, our own revenue managers, etc., have developed a really good process to go forward.
Great. Anybody else? Okay. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Well done, Doug.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Doug, we got racing tomorrow, so get ready.
Right, you're back to work.
Back to work.
Commissioners, next up, we have legal with General Counsel Blue and Seth Stratton, MGM Springfield General Counsel and Vice President.
Time for the exciting stuff.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. I have two agreements to report to you about today. Although I would first, before I get to that report, like to say that on behalf of the legal department, it has been our privilege to support our colleagues in going through their various presentations. We have certainly enjoyed working both with our internal colleagues and with the folks from MGM, so It's been a pleasure to help put all of this together. Two agreements that we have to report on. First is the memorandum with the Department of Revenue. That agreement has been agreed to. It has been signed by both MGM and by the Commission, and it has been sent back to DOR for their signature. So that is essentially complete. The lottery agreement has been agreed to. We are going to work with lottery to have the final document completed, but altogether we believe that that is appropriately done and will be in place.
Yeah, just a brief update. We did get it yesterday. In fact, with 22 days to go, we're always multitasking, so I was reviewing it while the earlier presentations were going, and I think Jed's doing some markups right now. So we anticipate, but overall it looks fine, and so we anticipate being able to wrap that up and have that finalized hopefully by first thing next week.
Great.
And that's all we have.
How many lottery terminals did you agree upon to have in your facility?
So I believe, yeah, thank you, Alex.
So we have 6 player-activated terminals throughout the facility. 1 flex terminal that will be in our retail, the store there. We'll have 1 flex within TAP, where people can play both Keno as well as traditional games, and then there'll be another within our cage, and that's more so for redemption. And then you saw the 6 standalone vending-like machines throughout the facility. And so we work very closely with Michael Sweeney as well as Michael Lorden and the entire team for the lottery to deploy these.
Great, thank you.
So, Commissioners, that is the presentation. The legal action will actually fall, the motion will fall under the legal division. So right now I'd like to give it back to Ombudsman Ziemba.
Thank you, Executive Director. I will turn it to Joe Delaney for a discussion of the determination of the final stage of construction.
Thank you. Back on July 19th, the Commission voted to reduce the bond for the MGM project from approximately $51 million down to $25 million to cover the construction costs of the off-site housing and the so-called Dave's retail building. In order to actually make this happen, we need a determination that the project has reached its final stage of construction. So MGM sent us a letter dated July 30th that certified that the project has reached the final stage of construction. And based on the physical inspections and construction schedules and budget updates, and I think from your site walks today, you would certainly agree that this project has reached the final stage of construction. So we're recommending that the Commission vote to approve MGM's certification that the project has reached the final stage of construction, so that the earlier vote to reduce the bond may be effectuated.
Any discussion? Do we have a motion? Commissioner O'Brien, are you?
I'm happy to move, Mr. Chair, that the Commission approve MGM's certification that the project has reached the final stage of construction in order to reduce the bond. The prior vote be effectuated.
Second?
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. Next up, Catherine Blue.
So now that the Commission has heard all the information today, there are 4 votes that we need to take so that we can move forward and start the opening process. I have drafted motions for you, should you be so inclined to approve them. The first action is to approve MGM Springfield to open for test and evaluation. This motion will allow them to open for test nights and for us to review and evaluate what happened.
So, Mr. Chair, I move that pursuant to 205 CMR 151.03, that the Commission authorize Blue Tarp Redevelopment LLC, referred to as the licensee, to open for test play on August 14th for an evaluation, and a test period on August 16th and August 20th, 2018, provided the following: that prior to August 14th, Blue Tarp Redevelopment LLC has received a certificate of occupancy from the City of Springfield, The licensee may accept currency in exchange for chips and other items of value at the cage and gaming tables. The licensee may process currency and other items of value in the count room. The licensee may operate slot machines and other electronic gaming devices previously approved and certified in accordance with 205 CMR 144. The licensee shall determine how the gross gaming revenues from the evaluation and test period are utilized and advise the Commission at the next public Commission meeting of such utilization, and the licensee may serve alcoholic beverages pursuant to the terms and conditions of its gaming beverage license.
Well done. Second?
Second.
Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously.
Mr. Chairman, one thing we forgot to mention, and I think the Commission knows this, but those evaluation nights, the 16th and the 20th, will not generate gross gaming revenue, but they may generate profits, which I have been informed will go to charity. Yeah, Head Start and Square One.
Great.
Excellent.
The second motion
So
is to...
all of the, what would otherwise be referred to as gross gaming revenue will be going to one of those two nonprofits?
Chairman, so we've committed up to $25,000 to each of those charities, and then the rest will go to charities to be determined. So it depends on how much revenue we generate.
But all of what we would have referred to as gross gaming revenue is
Will go to
going
charity.
to some charity.
Correct.
Great.
In other words, there's no tax, and there's no, MGM doesn't keep it either.
Correct.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Thank you.
Great. That's terrific.
The
Thank you for
second,
that.
second motion is to delegate to a single commissioner to observe the test nights, in this case, Commissioner Stebbins, and then to make the determination as to whether or not to issue a conditional license.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move pursuant to 205 CMR 151.011 that the Commission grant to Commissioner Stebbins the authority to observe and review the results of the test and evaluation nights to be held by MGM for Springfield. And based upon that observation and review and any prior approvals granted by the full Commission, the authority, if he is satisfied that the licensee has met the legal requirements described in Chapter 23K, Section 10 and 205 CMR Sections 135 and 151.01, and subject to any conditions necessary in his discretion, to issue a conditional operation certificate effective 12:01 a.m. August 23, 2018, through 12:01 a.m. September 14, 2018, which shall be subject to ratification by the full Commission at its September 13, 2018 public meeting or at such earlier meeting as the Commission determines appropriate. I further move that Commissioner Stebbins will report on the results of the test night to the full Commission at the next regularly scheduled Commission meeting.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously.
And I think we will note for the record that Commissioner Stebbins abstained, I
Right,
believe.
thank you. Sorry. I should have noted that. Thank you.
The next is the motion to approve the form of the temporary and permanent operation certificates. You will see that they resemble what we did for PPC. The blanks in terms of the number of machines and table games have not been filled in yet, but they will be prior to their issuance.
Do I have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that the Commission approve the form of both the temporary and permanent operating certificates as those documents appear in the Commission packet.
Second.
Second.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously.
Thank you, and I want to
Are
thank...
they required to display these in a particular place? Remind me.
They do have to display it, yes, they do. And I want to thank Mike Sangalang, who has put them together for us. They always come out looking very nicely.
They
when we
look
let
very
Mike do
nice.
it, so it's
Very
great.
official.
Finally, this is the motion where you approve that MGM is in material compliance and then can move forward. So this is the final motion, and this will set the whole process in place.
All right, who gets the honor?
I'll move that the Commission find and determine that based upon the reports provided to the Commission at the July 19th and August 2nd, 2018 Commission meetings, and project updates provided to the Commission at prior meetings, subject to any terms and conditions expressed by the Commission at those meetings and subject to any terms and conditions determined by the single Commissioner in his discretion after the test and evaluation period. That Blue Tarb Redevelopment LLC has demonstrated material compliance with MGL Chapter 23K, 205 CMR, the terms and conditions of the agreement to award a license, and the license issued to Blue Tarb Redevelopment LLC on June 13 of 2014 and effective November 7, 2014, subject to any further terms or conditions deemed appropriate or necessary by the Commission, and subject to the Commission's right to review or revisit such material compliance in the Commission's discretion.
Second.
Is there any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it unanimously. You guys are off to the races.
Thank you very much, Commissioners.
That's it?
Okay.
That's it.
That's it. Do we have any commissioner updates? Do I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.